Lucini Camara, and Deputy Minister, Deputy Maritime Commissioner for Legal Affairs Lloyd Kennedy, had been sent to London by Chairman Bryan to fetch a $1.8 million check. There was also a report that a check of roughly the same amount had been cashed without reaching the central bank. I had some doubt that Chairman Bryan was involved in the impropriety suggested by these transactions, but it was not up to me to make any judgments. Soon, another check, the same amount, was ready for pickup. The best information I had was that then Commissioner of Maritime Affairs, T.I.G.D. Slanger, would not let Camara and Kennedy get a hand on it. Slanger was in nearby Italy, and Bryan was worried he would get the check before any of his emissaries did. But someone else got the check and cashed it. It was Mohamed Duclé, our IMO, this International Maritime Organization representative. Duclé said he put some money in the bank account of Commissioner Slanger, gave some to Chairman Bryan and Kennedy. I had no way of knowing who was telling the truth, but that was much less of a worry for me because this was happening. It was not happening in the U.S. where I was posted. On top of that, this thing was playing out at the very top of the chain of command in our government. However, I called Mr. George Aku, our in-house legal person, into my office and asked him if it was possible to cash a check that was otherwise payable to an agency of the government. Mr. Aku swore that it had been done before with a $3 million check, though it was illegal. In the heat of the debate over who else Duclé had shared the money with, and after cashing the nearly $2 million check, the Deputy Commissioner for Financial Affairs out of my office, Mr. Garrison Toba, was summoned to Monrovia. Next thing I heard, he was in jail with Commissioner Slanger, whom Chairman Bryan had suspended. They also jailed Bureau of Maritime Affairs Controller Samuel Cummings. After Mr. Slanger posted bail and left Liberia, he showed me a set of documents he believed represented, I got copies right there, a smoking gun about Chairman Bryan's involvement in the shady deal to cash a government check. I showed the document to Mr. Aku and asked him what would be the big deal if Chairman Bryan ordered the check cashed so that he could make a legitimate purchase while he was abroad. Aku said that the proper way to spend government money was through the budgetary process, and any other way was inviting needless trouble. But my main focus was the on LISCA, which it was my official duty to monitor for compliance with our maritime contract. But soon after Slanger was suspended, Lloyd Kennedy arrived in the U.S. as acting commissioner of Bureau of Maritime Affairs. Kennedy wrote a letter addressed dismissing a long-time maritime train employee named Amos Zawanya from his post as assistant commissioner in the Vienna, USA office. 4 other persons who had been hired by Commissioner Slanger were fired. The acting Commissioner Kennedy, wrote me a letter on July 22, 2005, saying that my salary of $106,000 was being cut by $40,000 a year because I had been, quote, a newly appointed or accommodated into the maritime program for political reasons. result of the Accra Peace Accord. The accord I helped to write no longer protected me, provided me any protection from an angry Judy Bryant. I'll get to the politics of it a little bit later. But my new salary was now less than half of that of my secretary. I was a father, a husband, with a house note, a car note, and 3 children, one of whom would be going to college the following year. Though devastated, I realized that I was still Senior Deputy Commissioner, Bureau of Maritime Affairs.
Can the volume go up a little bit? We still can't hear too much.
Though devastated, I realized that I was still Senior Deputy Commissioner, Bureau of Maritime Affairs, which meant that I had to function as a watchdog for my government, regardless of what Judy Bryant and Commissioner Kennedy wanted to do to me. Then Mr. Kennedy wrote a letter to Urim Cohen, the agent who runs our maritime program, that, quote, by directive of the chairman of the National Transitional Government of Liberia, His Excellency C. Judy Bryant, Mr. Tatate's salary must not be paid for 90 days, effective as of the date hereof, until he has made full restitution of salary he received for 90 days. He did not work after being appointed to his post, unquote. Now, let's get it straight. My pay was reduced by 60%, but I would not even get the new low salary for 3 months. And then Mr. Kennedy wrote Mr. Cohen, quote, Chairman Bryant further directs that should Mr. Ted stay away from work during this period, his salary should be prorated for the days he worked after full restitution of the fund is recovered, unquote. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't know about you, but I just about am ready to say that these people did not like me and were doing all they could to inflict some heavy damage on me financially and emotionally. Am I reading too much into their actions? In what civilization, in what culture, in what political system will a family man be allowed to suffer this way, and legally too? Of course, I wrote to Mr. Kennedy reminding him that there were only 53 days between March 19 and May 12 in any year. If we agree to that my pay should be docked for those days. I got no answer. Then came October 2005, and the money it took less than 3 months for me to earn had been recovered at a low pay rate for more than double the time it took to earn it. During that time, I had absolutely no pay, a take-home pay, yet I reported for work every day during that period, as I had done before that time, and as I had endeavored to do throughout my life with any enterprise as an employee. On further examination, Chairman Bryant gave a reason for why he believed that those of us who came to the Bureau of Maritime Affairs as a result of the Accra Peace Agreement no longer deserve, quote, accommodation, unquote. We got to the agreement. The reason was that we were not trained maritime employees. The exception was Amos Samonja, who was fired outright. He was trained by the Bureau in Maritime Institutes in Sweden and Japan. But he was and still is crown. That should be the exception. Just think about it. whom we picked to lead the country out of crisis is giving as his reason for firing and cutting the pay of his fellow citizens the very piece of core that gave rise to his leading the nation. The piece of core moved Brian from being a scrap metal dealer to lead the nation. As for the agent who runs the maritime program, you can call him a saboteur if you like, but he may just feel that Liberia is ripe for the making. He feels that there is nothing in his way that $1,000 here and there would not cause to disappear. Excuse me. He may be right. When in 2005 I arrived in Liberia seeking audience with the now dissolved National Transitional Legislative Assembly and subsequently the elected upper and lower houses of our legislature, the city actually requested me to appear before it. To state my claims against Liska, I prepared myself with some of the documents that I brought here today. But when the time drew near, I received a letter from the chairman of the Senate Committee on Maritime postponing my appearance, quote, for circumstances beyond our control, unquote. Liska won again. That was 3 years ago. I've not heard from anybody since. That's my written statement. What I'd like to do next is give you a copy of these are the letter invited me to the Senate and the one postponing my appearance. And
you can present all documents to our assistants.
I also have copies of all the letters they wrote to me, cutting my salary and whatnot. But this is 20 pages. I'm not going to read it. What I did was I read when they put out the audit report that was done by European Commission, EU, on Liska. The full report is 121 pages long. And then he did a summary. I got a copy of the summary here. Excuse me. And I read the summary and I read the whole report. What I did was to go in the report itself and extract some salient points and made what I call an abstraction. I did not, in fact, the little preamble in there with the following abstract is taken verbatim from the EU Commission audit report without my editorial input or interpretation. Any comments by me, which is in here, are in brackets with my name attached. The pages in the original documents are each referenced with a page number for the convenience of anyone who wants to check the source document to confirm accuracy. Now, and then for preparing for you guys, I made some highlights in here. But what is very important to me, which I'd like for you to see right now, is the agent opens bank accounts where the money for the maritime goes. There are two registries. We got the ship registry, and then we got the corporate registry. Now, when they set up the account, you can go anytime and see how much money we got in the ship registry. But in a corporate registry, now for instance, it's a ship registry, you got John the bottom. Uren Cohen, who is the agent himself, Scott Bargeron for Liska. On the Liberian government side, we got Garrison Tuba, Emmanuel Reeves. They all see the ship registry account. Then come to corporate registry. People can see it. John Lobatten, Urin Cohen, who owns Celcom, Scott Badger, and where you see asterisk is where Liberian can see. So this whole thing about the maritime affairs is about corporate registry. They don't let us see it. One of the letters I wrote to when I got my bearing, because I flew blind into this whole business, I got my bearing. I realized they were briefing me on how many ships entered the registry, how many ships left, on balance, what is the net tonnage, was it going up, going down? Mostly it was going up. It's big news. But they never attached dollar value to the supposed high tonnage. All the while, our earning was going down. At least the share that the Liberian government got was going down, while the tonnage was going up. After a while, I noticed, I said there's a correlation between acquiring ship and losing money for the government. If so, then we can afford to have one more ship. I wrote to them. I said, at any rate, give me the breakdown of the corporate registry. How many people we got in the corporate, how many corporate clients we got. They already briefed me on the ship thing every month. It's corporate clients. Then they wrote me a letter, I'll show it to you. They said that the corporate registry is housed on a computer called System 36. It's a big computer at IBM. It's a mainframe. But they said this computer cannot index. So, and the corporate list is so big, if we started printing, it would take 2 weeks to finish. So I wrote to them, I said, well, it will take that long, then you start this afternoon. Okay, finish. No, I didn't hear from them. After a while, I wrote them a letter. And in the letter, I explained how I want it. I say I want to see a heading that says, 1, date of incorporation, 2, name of company. Anything else you can put there, be great, but that's the main thing I want. And I want it in alphabetical order according to corporation name. They printed something which I have over there, which is indexed on corporation number. I got no use for that. But you can see the corporation number is smaller, meaning join first, and so forth and so forth. Even so, there are gaps that got tens of thousands of records in it, and they will jump over certain numbers. And one of the gaps can swallow 6 times the one they printed out. I wrote to them about the gaps. By now, they are sick and tired of me, and they are right, because the only thing I know how to do is write, and I'm a trained reporter, journalist, so I kept writing. After they did all this, they expected me to walk away from the job. Remember, I got kids bound for college. I got to pay. I got to dress properly. I mean, taking clothes to the cleaners. I got to put food on the table. We got to pay car loan and all that kind of stuff. They expected me to say, no, $40,000, and he's not even getting it. He was so flee. I did not. I say I will hobble to the finish line, but I'm still the Senior Deputy Commissioner of Bureau of Maritime. I'm in a data mine. Okay, when I ask questions, I must get an answer, whether I can pay or not, which I did. Then at the end of 2004, I had to write an annual report. Then I wrote the annual report. I don't work directly on the Judy Bryan. I work for Commissioner Judy Slanger. So my annual report goes to the Commissioner. Commissioner gets it, makes it part of his annual report, send it. Judy Bryan see how I've been writing these people when where I am. Alright. So gets the report. He doesn't like it. And Jenny Slaughter now, when he got in trouble with this check business, the door is open. Judy Bryan, after he did all this, I called him on the telephone. He told me, answer me twice. He said, he called me by my first name, Tati. I can't discuss that on the telephone. I said, how are you going to discuss it? He said, I can't discuss the telephone. I said, okay. And later I called him. I said, Chairman, have you found a way to discuss this with me personally or someone else? I can't talk about that on the telephone. I can't. So I called around. I got Mr. Harry Greaves. Harry Greaves, what's going on? He said, talk to Commissioner Lloyd Kennedy. I said, I tried to talk to him. I wrote to him, then I answered my question. He said, your name is in the audit report as having received money that you are not entitled to. Money you are not entitled to. And sure enough, that's what I got interested in the audit report I read. They talk about the 382.5 hours starting from March 19 to May 12 that I got paid for. Because the controller in monrovia, Mr. Cummings, says, when you are appointed, a letter of appointment determines your start date. At least as far as pay is concerned. I'm here in Monrovia. They're sending me on assignment, going to the office, doing certain things. I got certain skills that they need. They help read documents, write documents for the commission. I was doing that. I was happy. But now, that's when it started cutting the money. All right. I said, okay. Now I realized I was being bounced back and forth, and they probably were getting fun out of it. I said, no, I'm not going to call anybody. I'm not going to write to anybody. So I started targeting the legislature. And as I said before, come here and tell them my story. But again, it never. What broke this whole thing is this email thing. You know, the president of this republic, Adam Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, called me, I think about July 7th, 2007, and said, Mr. Ted, I don't know how I got the report, but I read your report on the maritime. You, of all the commissioners who ever served, stayed the shortest in the maritime, but you wrote the most comprehensive report about how this thing is running. So I believe that if you are part of the panel that's examining whether or not to reward Lescar with a contract again for the next 10 years, I think we got a better deal out of this. I was ecstatic. Forget about personal stuff. And you have to come to me first. I said, I'll do it. I'll do it. But I said, well, Madam President, this is what happened. I briefly went through what they did to me, cut my pay and all that kind of stuff. By my own calculation, the money they owe me, $128,000. Now, I already told you that my father was a hammer carrier, low to the taxpayer. He worked for free. This kid doesn't. When I work, I get paid. Oh, we all going to suffer some inconvenience here in this country because I know how to tell my story. That's what I told the president. He said, don't worry about it. Then she said she wanted to talk to the Minister of Finance. Now, look, every time something new happens in this country, I think we got a new beginning. I've been being naive in thinking that every new beginning is it. That from here on in, we're going to be doing the right thing. When Judy Bryan came in, what got into my head to think that there was the new beginning? I don't know. I have no prejudice. I fought everything tooth and nail to keep President Sirleaf from becoming president. I'm a CDC man. Everything I knew about her, legitimately, I wrote articles about her during the campaign. I strategized. She still won. Now she turns around and wants to use me. Damn, I think we are mature now. I will give her everything I got. So I got her. I went. I went to the minister. I can't see the minister. Call on the phone, waste your units. I go there. The people on the desk too busy. I don't see any kind of measurable way of recording people coming and going. I was frustrated. I said, okay. I called the executive mansion again. The president told me. I told the president about your call. The president said, what you should do is this. Write a summary of your discussion with her. Attach the letter that she sent you, saying that she was going to talk to the Minister of Finance. And then send it and send up a copy. I did that. Put a letter in that envelope. I went there. I dropped the letter. The gentleman sitting in front of me, but he's on the computer keyboard. There's another guy sitting next to him. Nobody looks up in my face. And I stood there for a few seconds and I said, is that it? And I said, I said, okay. So I left. 3 weeks later, I called. They said they didn't see my letter. So I went there. They looked through their records. They didn't see it. I said, okay. And the lady said, can you write another one? I said, no, I'll send the same one. I'll make a copy. Go on my computer, write a copy. Attach everything. I carry that. 2 weeks later, I went there. They said, did you bring a copy of the letter that you wrote? Because we can't seem to find the other one. I said, no, I didn't bring a copy. I said, okay, I'll come back. So I went home. I made 5 sets of identical something with the same address and everything. I said, every week I'll go there and drop one. And then I'll go there next week and drop another one.
We're just concerned, are you still on your presentation? Because you seem to be talking about a period that is outside of our investigation now. We stopped at 2003 issues, but you seem to be telling us things about, present and after that. So is there some connection? Is there some key point?
There is a connection.
Okay.
Now the connection is this. This is maritime. If I go in there, go back to maritime. At least that's a connection I see. Go back to maritime. Now when the email came out, I realized that even including the time I was going up and down, this guy was on a fast track to getting the contract back. Perhaps what he wanted was, I go in there, I put up some attention. There are a few people on the panel. Democracy prevails. The contract goes through. I might say, maybe that was it. I don't know. So every which way this guy influence pervade the whole government. That's the point I'm making. You get it? All right. Now, again, the question I would like to ask you, what's the difference between me and my father? You work, you don't get paid. I'm educated. I work, I don't get paid. So what's the difference? I don't know what your authorities are, but I have records here that I can share with you. I have letters written by London-trained lawyers to me when I asked for the index list of corporate registry. In one of the letters, the lady tells me that to construct a query to determine the current list of the corporate registry will require writing something that would take into account spaces, articles, prefaces and surfaces, all that kind of nonsense. What she's talking about is the same thing that you do to your email. If you got a 300 email and you don't have time to be going through them, you click on the bar that says email address. And if you know the email address of the person, it's the alphabetical order. Go there. Any computer can do it. Computer is a system for indexing. Any computer that does not index is not a computer. So, but if they are going to accept that, of course, I wrote to them and pointed all this out. So, basically, the problem we have in this country regarding the maritime is, according to the audit, there are 28,286, at least as of 2004, corporate clients in our registry. The report says the main bone of contention is that LISCA gets to charge each corporate client $300 minimum a year for something called registered agent fee. This fee is not part of the general ledger, so you can't see it anywhere in Liberia government records. And that fee for each year, if we're talking about the corporate registry fee, is $8.6 billion a year, which, according to this report, LISCA, I want to use this exact language. They're saying that LISCA keeps it. Why? Well, we don't know. They say why was it left like this? It was in the original, when ITC had the maritime program, that ambiguous language that gave them wiggle room to keep so much was in there. When they renegotiated the contract, they did not change it. And so LISCA get that same amount. But the way I see it, the difference between LISCA and ITC, one, what they have in common is this, that we Liberians are dumb. They can take us for granted. They can do anything they want to do to us. But ITC diligently makes sure we get our share. That's why we're getting 1920, plus $27 million from the program. They don't want us to be mouth for anything because we go to conferences, we sleep, waste their money. We don't make any report that makes sense. They got to be shuttling us around to go shopping and go visit our friends and relatives. They say that straight in your face. In one of the reports, it said that someone claimed that they said we don't want to be, we don't want to report to or be accountable to a banana republic or something like that. That's the kind of personnel that we put forward. But now, this check we're talking about, this $1.8 million check we're talking about, what is it about? The check is about a communication satellite called AMERSAT, IMMARSAT. This used to belong to the United Nations. But so many countries way back then didn't have a way of making international calls. So at a reduced rate, they give it to the poor countries. They get Liberia, say about maybe 66 lines for international traffic. Now people wanted to be members of the communication something of the United Nations, who pay an annual fee which far exceeded Liberia's purchase of 66 lines. But at some point they made a determination and said, look, UN doesn't need to manage this thing, let me get a public business. And it became independent, private, satellite lease channel lease company, AMERSAT. What happened? It happened at a time that Charles Taylor was ruling Liberia, and the chairman, the commissioner for the Bureau of Maritime was a man named Benani Ure. Ure saw an opportunity to make money for government of Liberia, so he bought shares in AMERSAT. It is the share that yield $1.8 million every 3 months, every quarter. That's why they were heavy traffic. When that time comes, people rush there, they run to each other. And they get it from our office, IMO office. Since it was not part of the revenue stream that comes in, and we pay taxes, other things, port charges, all of that automatically goes into the bank or central bank. This money, you gotta go and pick it up and carry it to the central bank and deposit it. So it's vulnerable. Anything can happen on the way to the bank. So while we were in Ghana, someone told us, hey, quarter had just ended. Some money sitting there. They got some of that money. Using Ghana. 3 months into the program, another one got ready. Until everybody got to know about it. And the money was intercepted by nuclear, as I said before. But I went into the maritime thinking, Charles Taylor, whom I would have killed if I had a chance. But these people, the Commissioner of Maritime Affairs during the Taylor government is the only commission who can sit across the table from LISCA or even ITC, and they know they got a worthy opponent. Because they don't take nonsense. What they do with the money once they collect it, I don't know. But they make sure they get their share. Now, you can get into what Taylor did with the money. You're back against the wall. People firing shots at you. Hey, you got a national treasure, money comes. You spend it. I don't excuse it, but that's the situation Taylor and his group found themselves in. But the thinking that went into buying shares in Emerson, I said, well, the jury man had as I read the communication between him. When he was commissioner, when they put money in the maritime program, he had to type a code. Then he said, you guys come and type. They type it into the computer system. 2 codes enter. Then the screen opens. Then they all see the amount that's in there. You can't take it out. As I show you, it's on one way. They put the money there, they can take out anytime they want. We are not diligent. And they won't go around saying bad thing about Europe. That's why when I met with the president, I said, hey, it looks like you guys want to kill this man. But do me a favor, I want to save his head. I want to look inside because his sovereign head probably got more juice than some attached heads walking around here. That's what the man did. Now, people will show the capacity to build things, to figure out something, to penetrate the international market. That's the talent that we took to value. Me, I'm a countryman here. This guy, you and I, culturally, we're two different animals. But I have the sense enough to know when someone has what it takes to make money for this country to move forward. People like that on the big corporation, they pay their bonuses at the end of the year. They don't ban them from traveling. Hey, how am I going to keep doing this thing here? We went and wrote a peace agreement, Charles are not qualified to face the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. We put in a fast track to the Hague. I'm no Charles Taylor fan, but we are making records. It'll be difficult to reconcile. I said, bring the man here, but of all the things, if you want to take him to Calabar and fly into the Hague, but one less problem for me. But why make him land here in the DRC zone? I say, irony is it, life at the guy, until it didn't stop his war. When they talk about alibi, Taylor got the best alibi among all of us. He was in prison. They had a plan, they were so they went and got him. They brought him. Me, I joined the war because people were fleeing. I was in America. People fleeing. Some relative in Sierra Leone. The next thing I knew, they ran over the camp. I said, this is in Sierra Leone now. We're going to go Burkina Faso. So it's organized. Alhaji Nkrumah, yeah, he responded the same way I did. But when Nkrumah came, he brought a manifesto, Liberian movement for the protection of Muslims, something like that. I looked at it a long time. I said, look, man, we need you guys, but you can't come here on this manifesto because you are saying that for every president there should be a Muslim vice president. I want to talk politics right now. That's constitutional issues. How do you drop this demand? Join us when we get our government together, elected government, they can go and lobby for that. Nkrumah join us, go Nkrumah, like Taylor, turn this thing into his own show. Cause plenty of the first thing they kill Kabe. That got the nerve to call me. Blamo's here was visiting my house. Blamo is on the extension. And Nkrumah tells me, Everything is fine. I said, IG, they put yesterday, carpet. They said, you sent people to carpet. They killed him. You will see this nightgown. Kill him. And you said, so everything is all right. But you can't give me a chance to explain. So go ahead, explain. You didn't make the call. He and I shot at each other. I said, Kruma, you killed carpet. Damn. And I wrote it everywhere I could look on the internet. I accused the man. That's me. I'm sincere to my feelings. What we are doing here, finding a way to make exceptions, is going to hurt us. Many of us are educated, and that's what is happening to us. We find a way. Now, I hate to talk about these things. Articles that I write a lot of articles. I try to stay away from things that Madame Sully did before we had the peace agreement. Once the peace agreement covered everything is forgiven. So we had this battle. I don't go back there. But the things she had done since, I attack every which way. I wrote an article saying a cancerous growth on the presidency. I see it. There's a single fan walking around here singing a woman praises. This woman can take criticism, for God's sake. She's a graduate of Harvard University. If we can't criticize, who the hell are we going to criticize? Samuel Doe allow people to campaign this down here. They go in a debate with Doe, semi-literate. You can't try that with that one. We had to be Bella Yala. We're all members of the TUI party. October was a democratically elected president. Go figure. It's all confused in this country. The chief rebel among us is president right now. But the agreement is what I'm looking at. I can't dwell on that all the time. All the mistakes she's making and stuff that she did, that's what we need to talk about. There are two issues here in closing. The other issue is personal. And I get some, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Coleman. You think the thing about me, my check being cut, and all the harassment that went on is immaterial. You guys are not interested in that. You want to know everything just between 1979 2003, right? That's it. But my experience in maritime is what I got from being commissioner that go outside your area of review. So what's the invitation for?
For example, if you came in right at the end of a period that we're investigating, you will be able to find facts and information linked to that period that we may not have been able to find. And it's that kind of information base that we need to understand what happened during that period. So in that point, it's a very positive and good thing that we're doing. But earlier you were talking about specifics with regard to recent times, and that's what I was concerned about, but not the issues that you brought up to us from the activity of the maritime during our period. No, that's very positive, and that's why we called you. Thank you.
You were saying, like the records that got of avoidance, of not paying taxes, of not paying this, or taking this much money, and doing all of this. You're interested in that. But what Judy Bride did, to say that the man who is on a job should not get paid, not take anything home, you got nothing to do with that.
Well, directly, you see, the period you're talking about after our mandated period, if somehow you can show a linkage to the two, then of course we have the purview to go into that. But if it's an independent issue, then that will be taken up by the Independent Human Rights Commission that will be established. They have purview from anything after our mandated period up to now and the future.
You are saying a later panel will look into that.
Yeah, that's their responsibility.
Okay, you are the chairman of that panel?
Well, no, that panel hasn't been established yet from our knowledge, but it's in process.
All right. So the information I brought, all the letters, exchanges between me, Judy Bryant to Liska to Judy Bryant, back and forth. You're not interested in that?
Well, if it's linked to issues that show sort of economic, criminal, or financial mispropriety during that 79 to 2003 period, and you have evidence, then that is something of interest to us. Maybe you, at that time when you took over, you investigated and found some problems. And it's those problems you were trying to deal with Mr. Bryant on, and maybe didn't get the proper address or redress.
Well,
so we would be concerned about that.
Well, here's the thing. The more Stevens audit report documents some of the claim. I didn't know there was an audit going on when I was writing these letters. But the very thing that we're asking about, I reported in this audit. And the president told me when she said that she read my report, she said that the Mo Stevens report is out. I've not read it, but I want to see to what degree it confirmed and substantiate some of the claims you're making. What she said. And that made me very, very, very happy. It was beautiful to work with her until the email came out and I had doubts that she was independent enough to do anything contrary to her natural bent to give the contract to Liska. Now we run out of people who can actually hold Liska accountable. I show you the letters from the Senate. They dropped the ball. They don't want to get involved. You know, that would be my next step, I guess.
May I ask you a question? I mean, well, first of all, once you finish your presentation, there will be a forum where commissioners will be able to ask you questions. I think as we go into that forum, more things will come out clearer, and then we'll be able to conclude in a proper way. So if you have officially finished your presentation, do you mind if we open the floor now for commissioners to engage with you directly?
Oh, yes, definitely.
Okay.
I'm pretty much done.
All right. So then we would start at that level. Now, there was a small problem because at the beginning part, it was very difficult to properly understand you because of the audible sound systems here. But we found out that the radio is very clear, so that's why we didn't stop the process. So some questions may be a repetition of things you have said. That's what I just want to guide you. I hope you don't mind if you just give us more clarity on.
Sure.
Okay. So we'll start then with the question and answer session from Shaq. Are you ready?
Thank you, Mr. Witness, for appearing before the TRFC to testify. In your introductory statement, am I correct to gather from you that you were a founding member of ULIMO?
Yes.
And if so, why ULIMO was founded?
When?
Where and when?
It was in Sierra Leone.
Were you in Sierra Leone
No,
when they were
I
founded?
was in the States. I went to Sierra Leone later on.
From the date ULIMO was founded up to the time you reportedly came to Liberia to meet.
Up to the time I did what?
From the time ULIMO was founded up to the time you came to Liberia.
Okay, I came to let's not miss word. I came to Liberia. I'm here. I did not reportedly come. I'm here.
No, I'm not talking about today. I'm talking about from the day or from the time ULIMO was established,
Right.
up to the time you came to Liberia to talk with Dr. Sawyer. Do I understand you to have said that you came purposely because you have discovered that President Sawyer at the time was trying to split ULIMO?
Yes.
Can you explain what you meant by that?
Where I met the president.
What are you mean when you say he was splitting?
Okay, here's what happened. The government, ULIMO was right here, somewhere nearby. Ulimbo never turned its guns on the city of Monrovia. They had an extra defense. And they carry rice to the troop. But then later on we discovered that with all these things, they were trying to make the troop beholden to Sawyer. So now we don't have kind of massive something, to be supporting these kids, buying bag of rice and stuff like that. So if they did that, doing that, make sure that these kids stay in the swamp there so until a kid come in town. And why then are they telling us who is they're talking about how you grow money, talking about you live with you know, okay, all that kind of stuff. I said, no, let me go to Monrovia and ask the president what's the relationship between him and our fighters. That's what I came here for. And I wrote a report and went back. As I said, the president left the meeting because while I said, and I quote, the president said what Mr. Ted means is that you have a habit of whining and dining your liberal forces in the executive mansion. So their loyalty to the people who actually put them in the field is getting less and less. They're losing control. That's what he's talking about.
And say at that meeting, I was physically present.
Yeah.
And that Dr. Sawyer introduced me as a member of Liberia.
I think there were a couple of you guys. Yes. Remember you.
And you said Barbara was present.
And Dr. Guan was present.
Dr. Guan. Are you prepared to bring Mr. Barbara and Dr. Guan to testify on this fact?
If I'm prepared. And other means to bring them here. I think you got a mandate, you can bring them here.
Yeah, but you have accused somebody, and it is your duty to prove your accusation beyond reasonable doubt.
No, we can start with Dr. Sawyer.
Yeah, I'm talking
I
about.
can bring. I know where Bai is. I know where Dr. Guan lives. I can bring them here.
Dr. Sawyer is in the country. Dr. Guan is in the country. Only Barbara is out of the country.
All right. So it's up to me to bring them.
Yeah.
If you ask me, I'll try to look for them. But my meager resources, I'll try to find them.
Thank you. You also, during your testimony, you reflected over the past from J.J. Rubber up to William Arutaba. And you outlined the mishappenings, the discrimination, the mistreatments, the suppression, the oppression of the indigenous Liberian. My next question is, PRC came to power to change this system of governance. That's all?
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I'm asking what
It has a PRC came to change that.
Yeah, to correct the past.
That's what he said.
And put.
Now I have no hand, the PRC came about. But from the face of it, that tribal people, and we would have had the first tribal person leading this country. That alone is sufficient ground for euphoria. And maybe underestimation of their capacity to deliver anything. That's the we're faced with. But we're trying something, and PRC was that thing. I didn't bring it about, but I was willing to try it.
The fact of the matter is that some of the things you talk about from Gijiro
Yeah.
to Taba at certain time, before, it is presumable that before Thelma administration, he wasn't born. And therefore, whatever you read, or whatever you are saying here, was based on what you heard from your father, what you read from book. But from April 12, 1980 up to 1985 up to 1989, you were already grown up person, mature, with education, and you saw some of the happiness. What can you say comparing the two-party regime and that of PRC as well as NDP?
I don't know how clear I can make it anymore. Up to the PRC, we have never had anyone of tribal origin heading the government of this country. We were euphoric. We thought, some of us even thought that was the end of all of our griefs. The PRC did something, but they had enemies. Right? I'm not here to compare them to say, the PRC did better than the, I can give you anecdotal instances. During the Tutman regime, the longest paved road out of Monrovia went towards the east and ended on his farm. During his tenure, Togo became president. All the roads in Mentor paved. All right, he started all the projects. I'm just giving it to kill one person. Samuel Doe, coup d'etat, bloodshed, comes in, build a long road. And Doe was born that way. The road went that way, paved all the way. Granted, things were developing in the pipeline. He did not say, let's change the map. He said, let's do what they were doing. Let's do it. Build a stadium, build public building, get people out of the business of leasing spaces to government. Let's build our own ministries and institutions. He did that. Having said that, I was a severe critic of Doe when he started deviating from what I supposed. I said, well, wait a minute. If we, the tribal people, think we had a better idea and the people screw up for 133 years, then why are we doing some of the same thing they did? I kept saying that until they got tired. What did they do to me? They sent me to Beliala for 7 months. Yeah, me. I was in Beliala. Doe sent me there. All the PRC people, the People Redemption Council group, was when he called me. I just come from abroad. I was Director of Research and Minister of Information. You know? And I'm saying, God, to be in America, try to be the PR person for this wild bunch. You say one thing, they do the next, they do the contrary. It's a headache. I want to do something that's a little bit predictable and rewarding, so I came. And I was Director of Research and Minister of Information. While I'm there, somebody showed Doe a letter written to somebody in California. They called me and they said, who wrote this letter? I said, I don't know. I said, read the letter. I read the letter at the end. I see my name, my signature. There's a photocopy. Now my attitude was bad. Granted. You see, because I know my right and people start screwing around with me, I get very, very angry very quickly and I don't care how many guns they got. So I was asking, where's the original? I said, look, under my signature, the typeface dotted there on which I signed, the typeface is a machine called Olivetti Letra 32 portable typewriter that I have. That's what I used to write an angry letter to Agoto for going to Palipo, where we were born in a ministry. I said, moved to some people, 8 died. I wrote a caustic letter. I think somebody cut my signature from that grafted onto this thing I brought here. That's the way I talked. They say I show no respect for them. Then they asked me how much did you buy a car recently? Yeah, I bought a Nissan Sunny. How much you paid for it? I said, $8,000. That's all. I said, what? I did 8,200. That's all. I said, well, wait a minute. If you want to know how much I paid for it, you tell me. We want to investigate how many cars. I mean, how much you paid for it? I just brought it in sale receipts, and you would know what I would. 3.5 cents. After that, you can tell when you say something like that, people say, I'm mumbling. I'm not playing. At the end, you say, Flademeto Beliala. That's how we Beliala. So, euphoria or not, it was a wild bunch. We were gambling. And then we had elections. And some people were unhappy with the election. Mrs. Sally wanted a seat in the Senate, she wouldn't take it. So, next thing, invasion. So what do you say now? You're asking me to compare TRC with TRC. I'm sorry, this thing stuck in my head. Yeah. PRC, People Redemption Council, with the government of President Tubman, or with Dewey Party, to see which is better. But the one we have not tried is better for me. Look, I was working right down here. Liberia Telecommunication in the mid-60s. I was a school kid delivering telegrams. Now, one night, they said they needed somebody. I was working the day. They said they needed somebody to be over there. At night, you type envelopes in the morning to carry the traffic. What happened? One lady called Henrietta Torbert, who lived on a whole road, got a letter from somebody who wanted her to be her godmother. The letter, the envelope was back that night. I backed the envelope. So they delivered the envelope. Tubman is out of the country at that time. He rarely traveled, but that time he was out of the country. He went to a country called Malagasy, which later became Madagascar. He just independent in 1960. The more there. Now they want to know who wrote to this woman because they used the code that was set aside for Tubman and this woman that was Tubman's lover. Her name is Henrietta Torbert. She lived on the whole road. I didn't know it until they grabbed me from school and put me in jail. I was 19, 20 years of age. So whether you like it or not, you end up with these people. They grab you. Now, coming to find out, it says SSS C. Wellington Campbell was to conduct an investigation. They made the heck out of me. You damn countryman, you come to town, you want to love to civilize women. I have no idea what they're talking about now. They have not told me that this and that using the president's secret code. So 3 days of interrogation by Campbell. On the 4th day, a man named Bonnie Dempster takes over. I think Campbell went someplace. I get in the office, Dempster says, Mr. Ted, by the way, here's a list of all the telecom employees. Look at the list and see if there's anybody missing. I look at the list, and then on the one breath, I said, dear fellow Davis. I said, oh no, he doesn't work for telecom. He said, what did you say? I said, no, my mistake. I'll talk about dear fellow Davis. But he doesn't work for telecom. So who does he work for? Dempster asked me, not threatening, the threatening man. I said, he works on the president's boat, but the boat sank. So the operators come over here. In Moscow, they receive it, and they type, they can read that stuff and type. So they come here, they got nothing to do. On the president boat, they don't have to worry about food and everything. They pay them there. It was good, but the ship is gone. They had no idea where they're coming back. As soon as I said that, Dempsey reached in his pocket, took out a 50-cent piece, gave it to me. He said, go outside and find something to eat. I walked down, you know, SSS office in St. Paul, near 9th Street. I'm walking down. I got to the front steps, held onto the banister. As I let go of the railing to go to the kiosk across the street, I found out my legs had enough power to prepare me across the street. So I returned to the railing and I held on. And I willed myself into dashing across the street. I got there. Put a foot long, look for bread. Put a brand of margarine called Blue Band. Have you heard about that? Huh? I put it in there. Bottle of Coca-Cola. I took a shot. I felt the chill of the cola in the bottom of my empty stomach. Bonnie Dempster. No, I'm telling you, don't express now. Comparison. You're talking about a kid just from Palipo a couple of years earlier. Barely speak English. All I want to do is go to school, deliver telegram. They help. They draw me to this thing here. That took my girlfriend. You don't mess with that woman. I didn't know her until I was dragged to jail. That's true. We party. We're talking. There's no nutshell here. It happened. Now tell me, I should make comparison with a guy who comes in. He sent me to Liberia, yeah, but I also knew that he wasn't terribly educated, insecure. So I said, give me another country president. We'll try that. I tried that 18 times. If it doesn't work, I could have told the people who came, I said, we're all the same. We're just as bad as the rest that came from America. So there's no basis for discrimination. Your answer to your question is, I preferred a new dispensation. I wanted something new, especially that when I had a tribal person. That's what I wanted. Now, I'm not that prejudiced. I was in school in 1960. I was in the 6th grade. The first time they ever introduced national exam in this country. But a year before that, at the beginning of 1960, President Tubman had a program where he brought books to Webo, Bonnie Webo district. The books were so brand new that my general science book came shrink wrap. I had to tear the plastic. Man, feel like I was in heaven. Everybody, teachers included, never had textbooks like these. And they taught us. We read every book from cover to cover. Math, that's how we got our arithmetic. English, spelling, we had a subject called health back then. We did all of that together. Long school days. Because we're afraid of the night. In the night, you can't get lantern. What happened? When we took the national exam, I scored the highest in the Weber School District. I was the most serious. Now I taught my brother's books. I let them keep in monrovia classroom too noisy. People not pay attention. My base was set way back then. Something I taught my day. I guess we finally got something for all the tax money that we're beating our people for. So I give it credit where credit is due. But I prefer somebody from the tribe. That's something we're not trying enough. So what's the basis for assumption that tribal people are worse? Let's do an equal measure since we all screwed up. So I live here, be proud, walking down the street and say, meet me on the corner, don't I tell? Hey, how does that sound? It's called political socialization. All we got to do is, two people want to meet, then they got to mention Ted, then they got to mention Connor. That's what we do here. Meet by the corner, Kerry and Johnson. That's the thing that screw up in our head. So we go to the put it. Just like Jenny Robert, Stevie Allen Benson, Daniel B. Warner, Kapuma Kona. Wait a minute, some bro. That's socialization that started way back. That's what the statue represents. It reinforces the thing in our head every day. So as they say Kapuma Kona, it doesn't apply. Dr. Tell, what is that? In my classroom in Monrovia, I went to MC. What is it? Laboratory High School, inside the University of Liberia. Never failed. Every day my name sandwiched between Thompson and so on. Every day I got parents says, Giga, why didn't you change this name? That's what I try to get away from. You ask me to compare, I say, give me a tribal person, faults and all.
You said you had a bad habit. In answering to this question, you made mention of a letter that was presented to you by Samuel Kayando and the answer you gave. All right. And you said at that time you had a bad habit.
Oh yeah, man. This man is CIC, Comanche, people calling all these sweet names. I'm angry, someone is trampling over my rights. That's all I see. That this kid likes to be referred to even when they're about to kill you. You got to talk to him. I didn't do that. When they ask me a stupid question, I give the answer and make them realize it's a dumb question, like what they asked me. You say you got no friends in California, when you wonder who you stay with. I said I stay in the damn hotel. I didn't use the word damn, but you could figure it was in there. Because you never heard about a hotel before.
My question is, you said you had bad habits.
You think I have bad attitude now?
Wait. So my question is, are you a changed person?
Look, attitude is something that comes up, right? When the opportunity presents itself, you meet it with an attitude. Otherwise, you get rolled over. You keep doing it to get bad attitude. You see, attitude senses attitude. Nobody has a permanent bad attitude.
Now that you are not before CIC, though, you are before the TRC. The letter that was presented to you that day, and you deny that it was not your writing, rather your signature was misplaced on it by someone. You have taken oath. Can you say that that paper was never uttered by you?
You mean to bring it?
Can you say that letter which President Doe called you to attest whether it is yours or not, can you say it today? Since Samuel Kayando is not alive anymore and your life is not written, can you say whether that paper was yours?
No, you see, I follow your line of questioning, I fall in the trap. I would say I didn't write it because Samuel Doe is not here. That means that if you were here, I would say otherwise. I said it then.
Yeah.
What would make me say it, not say it now when he's not around?
It was your writing.
Huh?
You wrote it.
I said I did not write that letter. My signature under it, I written a caustic letter to Mr. Doe, member of the TRC, PRC, that he gives as a wood to people in a village called Jutuka, where I went to school early. And he wanted to give as a wood to 3 other persons that happened to be related to me, and I got involved in the case. So they were all angry with me because I wrote that letter to him, and I brought to the attention of the PRC that he had caused the death of 8 persons.
Now, coming to the purpose for which you were cited here, can you tell the Commission how long did you work for Maritime Bureau?
The Bureau of Maritime? Officially, my job started March 19, 2004. I arrived in the States May 12. Well, I arrived there a little bit earlier. I started work. I went to the office May 12, 2004. And by a year later, they had a dispute. What is I cut my pay and all of that. So, but officially, my job ended on the 16th of January. Was that 16 or 20? When Madam Sully was sworn in.
The confusions were between you and who? The confusion, you say end of confusion. So my question is between you and who?
Fighting Liska. And I writing reports on Liska. And I thought I was doing that to help the government. Julie Bryan didn't like it apparently. They ordered my check cut. Now there's an issue you guys say you don't have any preview over it. I'm surprised you're bringing that up again. Right? So what's the point? You guys can't do anything about it. What is it? Do you sense any inconsistencies in my presentation? It's the point of the question. Since you're not actually reviewing that particular period.
The facts surrounding the whole maritime affair.
As I said in my prepared statement, I said, I don't know about you guys, but I am prepared now to draw the conclusion, which I have the right to do, that these guys don't like me. Then when you're asking me, I sense they don't like me. You think I'm wrong? If they went to the trouble, in a report, there's a lady called Linda Fawaz. She used to work for Liska in the US. Later on when she left, the audit report found that they gave her $100,000 and billed that amount to the government of Liberia. And the only connection the audit could find between Liska and Linda Fawaz is that Fawaz's father, Kasim Fawaz, was a business partner of Urim Cohen. That's the audit report. Let me see, I think it's page 17. Give me the page in the audit report. You see? Right? Now that's the kind of thing I'm talking about. But they never went after. Also, George Aku, according to the audit, on the same, roughly the same page, George Aku got $15,000 and $20,000 respectively. In addition to his pay, he had $15,000. He and Victor Duba. This is the actual audit report that I've summarized here. But when they went after me for the hours they claimed I did not work, they didn't go after them, they didn't pay the money back. They did not ask, well, of course Linda had left, but they did not ask Haku and Tuba to pay the money back. So what's the difference? That's what I base it on, and I'm entitled to an opinion that the guys didn't like me. You can say maybe I'm a partner or something.
In the audit report,
the only mention of my name in the audit report was the Liska paid me, or the government authorized Liska to pay me from the date of my letter of appointment instead of the time I sat behind the desk. That's the only time they mentioned my name. And Julie Brown decided to correct that by freezing my salary, reducing it by 60%, and requiring that I don't get paid while I'm working. And he instructs Liska, if he doesn't come to work, at the end of this, prorate and see how many days you are absent and deduct some more and withhold his pay. And when that thing ended, in October, I went to that and said, well, you had your fill. Let me get some money that I can buy some, They said, no, we have not gotten clearance from monrovia. I said, was there any clearance? You brought the man specifically said you should reclaim all the money once it's finished, back to business. He said, no. I was here before they finally did the calculation and gave me $827. You think I still am not entitled to the suspicion that these people don't like me? Huh? What's the question?
This box now.
What?
I'm not in the witness box to be asked that question. We are asking you in order to get the facts of the matter.
All right. I'm interpreting facts when I say there's a determined effort to hurt me financially and emotionally. I survived that. I did not lose my house in America. My kid still, he's graduating next year. He went to a private school and he's finishing in a private college. That's what I wanted. I still have 2 more years to come. We got 2 following next year. There'll be 2 kids in college. I don't be leaving.
It is true that the government, did authorize Liska to pay you from the date of your letter of appointment. Why, again, you will say that that was not your entitlement?
You're too close to the mic. I missed some of the things
you said.
Get back a little bit.
Okay. You said that when the letter of your appointment was written, you did not start the work because you did not receive the letter on time. You received another time, 32 days later. And then government authorized Liska to pay you from the date of your appointment.
The controller in office of the Bureau of Maritime Affairs said, and based on that, he was paying me some per diem for the time I was in Monrovia. And that I'm working at Monrovia, I come home, you pay per diem. So when you want facts, that alone, the fact that he gave me per diem, certified that they thought I had started work already.
My question is, was this authorization reduced into writing?
No, it's a convention. It's the way they do things. They give you a letter of appointment. They start you cutting your pay. That's what they do. They don't write, they cut you a check, and then they write a letter saying, we give you the check starting on such and such day because we want to start for the date of your appointment instead of the day you actually get behind the desk. They didn't do that. But the same way, if someone mails you a check in an accident and writes on the back of the check and says, this check settle all obligation and so forth and so on, you cash that check. You sign to cash a check, but you also sign to relieve the person of further liability. So the assumption here that they'll pay me per dime suggests or presupposes that I already started work. Is that not enough?
As Senior Deputy Director, Commissioner, sorry, what was your functions and responsibility?
My responsibility was to make sure that the contracting agent adhered to the terms of the contract, of the maritime contract, meaning that they should supply us with data of how many ships in the registry and how many corporations in the registry. Not only give us the data, but it said you give it to us in an electronic form where we can query it the way we like. For instance, they give you the corporate registration. I was on that program computer, I can write a query that says only give me the list of people who joined the registry since list got took over. You can put that date, that terminal date, and it will give you a printout for that. So walking around with a huge file, you can pick only the ones who can say only corporation from a certain state or from a certain country to know which country is most likely to register the ship on a Liberia or corporation on a Liberia. That's the kind of thing.
And when Lesca cooperated with you
No,
in
they
that
went.
election?
Yeah, thank you for asking that question. I felt that Lesca was not cooperating with me. More than that, they were bugging my office. You pick up the phone, call State Department. The next day, Cohen calls you and says, why did you call State Department? He did that to me. I was damn close to telling him to mind his own damn business. You know, but I said, wait a minute. This person, maybe what I'm doing is something that he doesn't want to do. So I calmly told him that I would call anybody whom I feel can give me an insight into whether or not what you're doing is proper. And I think you keep referring to the U.S. government. I give you a full backing because this guy is an American company. But I also know that the maritime company, Bureau of Maritime, was set up by the U.S. government following World War II, and as a consequence of World War II, it registered all of U.S. merchant marine vessel under the Liberian flag. Liberia reciprocated by selling all the rubber to the Allies in the war effort. But America was afraid way back then that if they allowed the operation of the registry to be in entirely Liberian hands, we would abuse it. So they said, the only caveat is that any company that manages the maritime must be an American company. That's our ITC token. That's why this allegedly American company called Lesca. Actually, this guy is Israeli, fought in the Israeli army. Cohen is a naturalized American citizen. That's how he got it. But you were quoting State Department and U.S. government so much that I thought they were in cahoots with us to screw. Go exploit those people. They still feel the same way. But we are so busy. We are a maritime nation because we have 350 shoreline of beach that they don't have in Mali. Maritime is more than collecting fees for ship registry. Some maritime nations don't have ship registry. But they got deep ports. They maintain them. And they got ships coming in, ship transit from there. We could be hauling goods. People in Mali who don't have a port, who have a space in our port. We're not doing that. The channel is crowding. Years pass without dredging, we're losing depth. So super tankers used to dock here to pick up iron. They can't come in. The damn place is shallow. That's what we need to do. But you think Lesca cares? They do paperwork and make a lot of money. That's the long view I had, and I was contacting people, and he suspected that. So he started monitoring. We went to a meeting, and the question you were asking, which why I'm glad you were asking, was Lesca cooperating. The meeting was with Wesley Bobo Johnson. He went to the States, unlike any Liberian official who would just show up in the Lesca and go upstairs and talk to Lesca, who is a friend. Wesley, he called me. He said, Tali, I'd like to talk to your employees. I said, great. Why don't you come lunchtime and we'll buy you lunch? He said, no. I have my lunch But right after my lunch, I will come so y'all can gather in the place where we have to spend time eating. He came there. And that's the same question he asked. Is LISCA cooperating? I said, I'll put a percent on it. I would say their cooperation is 2.5%. The rest of it is uncooperative. A man in my office called Tuba, whom they were able to treat like a lapdog. He said LISCA was cooperating 85%. 85%. All right? Now, I will show you pages in the audit report, what they do and what they're not doing. This and they're not done. This and they're not done. But in my home, when I ask for information, how long it takes them, whether or not they provide the information, I put a percent on it, it's 2.5%. And I'll be generous. Less than an hour after the meeting, Gowan calls me and says, so you think my cooperation is only 2.5%? How did he know? Maybe somebody from my office told him. Maybe he had a bug in the conference room because we're having it in there. You know? He has to prove to you that he knows, so you can at some point get that feeling of, constant persecution. So you can start to respect him. He didn't work with me. I told him, I said, they got bucks over here. When I make a phone call in defense of my government, one thing I'll do, I will not lie. I ask questions. Even though doing that gave them advance warning to set roadblocks. That ain't with their telephone traffic. I don't use their computer, send email. I got a laptop. I send my emails, do my communication at home. I can write it, I'll take it home and if I have to send it.
I know you were appointed as a deputy commissioner when Slanger was commissioner of the bureau. Now, when you were carrying on your activities, the functions of your office, and you discover that you are not getting the expected cooperation from LISCA, what was your reaction? Were you doing it independently, or you were doing it in consultation with your principal?
I did it. First I got clearance. As if my job description was not clear enough that I'm supposed to watch this agent. But I still wrote to the commissioner. The letters I here brought huge files. Where I was saying, after a conversation with Commissioner Slanger once, the list I asked you about, I told Commissioner Slanger about it. You want it. I got the letters here. So I was not operating by myself. I kept my boss surprised with this. I didn't pick up the phone to call Judy Brown because I don't work under Judy Brown, I work under Slanger. And when this man replaced Slanger, I have a folder. It says Commissioner Kennedy on it. I took all the communication I've been sending to Slanger, made photocopies of them and created that.
Since you have to send copies of all communication you sent Slanger to Europe when we replaced him, does it signify that Slanger does, okay, Kennedy, does it signify that Slanger will not cooperating with you or will not supporting your action?
Yeah, that I'm doing this and this. I sent copies of my letter to to go and send them to Slanga. When I prepare for a line of questioning, I write to Slanga, I say, this is what's coming up. What do you say? He said, go ahead, get it. Any information that you think will support us in this endeavor. So I'm free now to operate. I know my parameters set by the commissioner. That's what those letters are. It's not that I never sent. I told, no, wait a minute now. I wrote an annual report. I did it in 2004. I filed the annual report with Slanga. Slanga uses the report as part of his report to the chairman. That's when the chairman would have found out all the activities I was involved in and got angry. You gotta give him Liska Hata, give him Kuman Hata. That's how I see it.
When you were testifying, you talk about satellite communications that United Nations were selling to poor countries. But you said that instead of buying for the government of Liberia or for Liberia, it was bought by Mr. Ure. Can you tell us whether this communication network you are talking about was bought out of government resources or out of the personal resources of Mr. Ure?
Well, I know right now Mr. Ure is kicking himself in the rear end for not having gone to a bank and borrowed the money to buy the share in his own name. He bought a share for the government of Liberia. That's why they're making all those strips that collect the money. He bought it for the government.
From what we gather from you is that even though it was bought for and on behalf of the government, funds deriving from or accruing from that network is being properly used. Is that what you try to say?
No, I have no. As far as Ure is concerned, about the Taylor government is concerned, there have been a lot of charges that they were using maritime funds. And it's easy for me to imagine when you don't have any way of getting money to buy arms, and you want to buy arms to fight off rebel. It makes sense humanly, and I'd be legal. If they did that, I wouldn't be saying, why they do that? I wouldn't be saying, that would be almost like you'd be hypocritical. But I don't have any document to say that they use maritime funds to buy arms. I am saying that in this particular instance, and that was way before we started the next wave to remove Taylor after he became president. When they bought, this thing was to create another stream of revenue for the government of Liberia. That's what they were told. It's for the government. They write a check to the Bureau of Maritime. It's a private company. The satellite was launched by the United Nations to give poor countries satellite feeds for their international phone traffic. But the United Nations was pushing as more and more people apply. See, this thing is taking too much of our time. Let me get private. When it went public, that is, you get public corporation, you can buy a share in it. That's where Bureau of Maritime under your report, the share. And it was a good buy. Otherwise, I mean, if they were losing money, whatever money the initial funding went into, it would have gone down the drain. But people who spot these kind of opportunities pay bonuses instead of being told you can't travel. I mean, are we getting out of this thing or not? You got private list. Till I can come to the TRC. Because it's a fast track. Even though the war was not his idea, he wasn't one who was the execution of it for the benefit of people who are now in power. That's the way I see it. The guy was in the States when he started ACDL. They tried to recruit me. I said no.
Who at times conduct investigative journalism. Can you say whether this satellite network you talk about is being used by the government now or is being used by private individuals?
Well, you said what was being, you said the satellite?
You said that the satellite was bought. There you earned something.
Don't buy this satellite. The damn thing is so expensive. You buy channels on it. Just like DSTV.
That channels that was bought. And you said there was...
channel. You didn't buy a channel. You bought a share in the whole thing.
Or you bought...
So whatever, if they decide to add more channel, he gets more money for the government of Liberia. And he bought into the business, not 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 channel foot. No, it's not like that. All right.
Thank you very much, Mr. Witness, for the process. And the share you talk about that, the former commissioner board, the government still owns that share, if you know.
The share?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're still getting, they get the dividends from those shares. They still do every 3 months. We got $1.8 billion coming. But the only thing with this thing here is they cut the check for the Bureau of Maritime Affairs. You got to go and pick up the check. Now that's why I use the term revenue stream, like a river. You see the river gets bigger and bigger, bigger stream empty into the kind of revenue stream. But this water here, you got to go pick it up, put it on a truck, and dump it into this river called government revenue. Someone got to go and pick up. Very few people do. Maybe, I don't know what the reason for not making a revenue stream that enters directly.
And based on your experience with the Bureau of Maritime, and you work closely with LISCA because LISCA manage the maritime affair. And I wanted to actually, and then before Maritime came in, Tradefco used to manage the maritime affair.
No, ITC.
RTC, RTC used to manage the maritime affair. So if you were asked to point out some of the discrepancies in the two institutions, in terms in this hearing, what would you say? And which one, because RTC will actually close because people felt that, or the government felt that the people of Liberia cheated in one way or the other, and now you just pointed out some other issues when coming to LISCA. So what would you say the problems are at this time with LISCA, and what were the problem with Tradefco based on your experience?
Okay, between LISCA and ITC, what are the differences between them? I said that earlier in my prepared statement. ITC found us, because all the people who ever worked for the Bureau of Maritime would interface with ITC as the contracting agent. They found us inefficient, unwilling to work, and not knowing the subject matter. It's even in the report. They said the reason some people don't show up when they go to London for conferences is that their friends of mine ask them a question and they will not be able to answer it. Just one stay away. So ITC was the first to spot us as incompetent. But ITC, to their credit, said, these people are dumb. What we're going to do, we'll do the paperwork. But we'll give them the money that is due them the correct amount. I don't know what it was correct, but it was certainly more than what this guy's giving us.
And before you even go further, the RTC found us to be inefficient. So what did we do to correct that? Was it true, or was it an allegation?
Hey, that's a tall order. I can, given what I am doing now, defending my government and making the reasonable assumption that my government was behind me when I was querying these people, wanted to find out that they were in cahoots with the people. Brian both and down the Ellen Johnson government. Hey, I would say ITC was right. Just let them do the work, stay the hell away from us. We'll send the check. The distinction between LISCA and RTC is that RTC and LISCA agree that we're not efficient. But LISCA said the people are stupid, will take their lunch and eat it too. They said no. It's just like a baby, you harm a baby, they give out money. So we're making more money on ITC. And they have worse attitude perhaps than LISCA. Because they should be open with their insults. You can expect to get more money, $27 million. Them to sneeze at. I guess at that time you can say, hey, they're right, we're stupid. They just shut up and get the money. But the thing is, in the contract, it's set that the contracting agent must find a way at his own expense, that's what it says in the contract, to train Liberians. Ideally, the idea was when they got foreign managers in the offices in the US, the CEO, the CFO, and all the top people who were paid $250,000, $1 million, that Liberian would migrate to those positions once we acquired a requisite. But we lack the curiosity to find out what the hell is going on. And wherever we profess to have expertise, they don't show. When we go to conferences, we don't take notes, we don't ask questions. We just gladly sleep in the luxury hotel, and it's said it in the report. And then come back, buy a few things for our wife and kids, and be happy. And the people are eating our lunch. Then suddenly someone like Tante Ted shows up, you say, want to ask you, who the hell is this guy? Now, at the time the other people show up not to be getting their cut, then I'm here asking all these hard-edged questions. Man got only 2 years to be interested. I'm just guessing now. He doesn't want to know what Liberia get. He want to get a share and get out. So it wasn't happening in America, it was happening in London. That area there, even though I was still responsible for that office there too. But when they cut that check, I ain't even was going to go down and go confront someone in London where they carry the check. The government asked for it. Judy Bryant quoted the relevant law. He said the Ministry of Finance is the legal entity to receive money on behalf of the government of Liberia. Because they checked it with the Bureau of Maritime Affairs, they wanted to take it from there and carry it. And God knows what happened to him on the way. There's a letter he wrote. There's a letter Brian wrote where he quotes the relevant laws, sections of our law. This is what people do, they go overboard. You gotta send 2 people that to bring the check. In fact, 3. They took the check. The one check that caused all the problems. And they took the check to New York, where the governor is the check itself. $1,814,482. No sense. Captain Hill, Emmett Hill, who will replace Dugalin. He did a splendid job. When he put together this report and cover letter, everything for the company. That's what made this check hot. People start running away. Say, with a paper trail like this. So they waited for the next check. That's the one that blew up. They got documents and everything. I mean, I don't know the legal implication. The receipt, he hadn't signed for the check. receipt. Okay, you can take it. You can cash it any place else. The number of shares that would, the dividends on wages, money was paid. They give you the number of shares that Liberia owns, and how many euros per share, and how much money it came to the other company. As a certificate. Captain Hill included everything.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Hello, Honorable Chair. I am Commissioner Pearl Brown-Poole. Happy today to see Honorable Tata Te, because we remember your name long time, even started in the 70s, right, during the Tobo administration, right?
Right.
Yeah, you were much younger. Tata Te was a popular name.
We all were.
Yeah. Now, you say Benena Yure bought shares on behalf of the government. He bought shares in Liska, or he bought shares in the maritime business. Where did he buy shares from? What could you explain?
Okay, shares are bought in corporations that are public corporations based on the prospect. The share buyer sits down and thinks, I think this company will do well. I think this company is being well managed, so I'm going to buy shares in it. All right? When that company went public, meaning declared itself a public corporation where everybody can buy shares.
Which company?
Now it's called Emersat.
Emersat?
Emersat is a telecommunications satellite that's in the orbit. United Nations used to own it and sold channels to countries, especially poor countries. Rich countries were members, of this organization, so they pay annual due. Granted that the number of channels they need is higher.
Yeah.
So they put a flat fee that they pay. Somebody use more channels, somebody use less, but the money remains the same. But for poor country, if they slap you with the subscription cost, all of it, your need for channel is not justified being member because you pay more money. So they say, well, we can give you 66 channels Liberia to use. That was when United Nations were managing it. At some point, the UN said, well, this thing is drawing a lot of traffic. Apparently it has potential to make money. Let me get a private company. Let private people handle it. The satellite is still up there. Every once in a while they will do something to correct its course and do this and do that. It's maintenance. But it is a company on earth. And the company is the one that Europe bought share in.
On behalf of the government of Liberia.
Exactly, that's
and
why.
This government from his time up until this government is aware of the shares and the government receiving dividend.
Yes.
From what you talk, when listening to you, although your voice low, but we had a radio here, so we hear you loud. So don't think that we were not paying attention to you, because we have a radio here that could hear you louder than your voice.
Is it being broadcast?
It's broadcast.
Oh,
so
thank you.
Everything you said here have been broadcast. Just in a few minutes, the people who they just took you off for news. So we've been live from the time you started. So if for any reason you saw, like I was not paying attention on the channel here, we have a radio here, and we're listening to you, so you've been, widely heard. And that's why we say we knew Tata Te this time from Tobo time. But then you were young, and you were speaking out against the ill in the society. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And during the Dole period, came, in fact, which area, which region of Liberia you from, Mr. Tata?
I'm from the southeast. I'm from the area now called River G.
River G, Papa, then it was still Grand G.
Well, if, as I said in my prepared statement, it was Eastern Province.
Yes.
When I was born.
Yes. But from the Eastern Province, on Tottenham time, Tottenham made those areas counties under the Tottenham administration. And who was the first superintendent for Grand G there? Can you remember?
Moses Booker Harris.
Yeah, Moses P. Harris, yes. Yes. His son became managing director of the MPA also.
Yeah.
Okay. So some of us been around long enough, including you, to have institutional membership.
Thank you.
All right. Then, Dogma, because you see, we're writing also the history of this country. And based on the war, and some people that most of us don't read, we take the paper to make coal, make fire, or use it for other reasons, you know. So we don't read, and we just heard. And sometimes people, for their own motive, they have the mission statement that try to make people believe, to justify why things are done for this purpose. Because now we're looking at the hinterland. At one point in time, it was divided into provinces. That's when you were born: Eastern Province, Northern Province.
Eastern, Central, and Western.
Yes. Then we can see with the unification process, because although we're on economic crime, but learning is something you can learn it anytime.
Exactly.
And anything you don't know about, you're ignorant. So it's important, and you don't go to school to learn everything. Because with all my degrees, even 90% of it I don't use it. I learn what I learned in the university or the universe, dealing with people, dealing with someone like you, so much history. Do you have in your possession any of those letters that you used to write then, challenging the system, challenging to turbo time, challenging it to door time? Now, when you were talking, it was something strange. You from Grand G, that that time was Grand G, that they just made it River G. I think one who taught the Taylor time.
Yes.
You see, so each president, like I said, when the president came to speak to us, although we were in camera, but hearings were repeated over the air. I said, Tottenham said in his dictum, each generation was paying the price for what they inherited. Yeah, you were born in a province. Tottenham time, they made it from unification, they made it to a county. Big county, big area. Mostly Harris, yes. They need Harris, Chichi, a London man. Then, during time, they changed it to Dori changed it to nothing. He just improved that era. But then Taylor came and divided to River G, because apparently maybe the population had increased for that time. And I think it also went there the other day. You see a lot of minerals look like there, because you see glass and things like glass. Now, do you have, it was doing your own man time too, that you see that the people even lied upon you.
Yeah.
And did they waste you to jail? Did you go to jail?
I went to Belayala, yeah.
Belayala, they had in prison.
Yeah.
And you live to tell the story, because many people went to Belayala. Kesali, the chairman of the Constitution, who wrote the 86 Constitution, he went there as well. So at least we see somebody who can tell us for Belayala. Could you tell us what was the condition there in Belayala when you went there? And honor sent there by your own hometown man who then had become a liberator for his people. Can you tell us what was the condition in Belayala? And how were you treated? How long you stayed there?
Well, Belayala is a psychological prison. It is not the most difficult prison. I think you have a worse time at South Beach in a place called 4B than in Beliala. In Beliala, you roam the land. And if you were Tate born in Botican, you know, who knows how to fell trees, brush farm, you was, you know, you were in your element,
Yes.
so to speak.
Your habitat.
Now, right. They heard me and they thought maybe I was born in America. They would not give me the tool what I needed. When I go to Center to go cut wood, they give me the dollars cutlass. And they give the big sharp cutlass and axe tool, someone as big as Anthony to Tape. And Tape doesn't know how to cut down trees. You know, until one day a tree fell across the road to the creek where they get water. It was Sunday. I took the axe with all the women looking on. In 30 minutes, I cut it in 2 sections and rolled it away. They had new appreciation for me. And I had appreciation. But the one thing that bothered me while I was there was my mother. When we had fun, my mom didn't know. She was still grieving. She thought I wouldn't come back. Yeah, we had fun there. At the time I was in Belaya, they were writing the committee that were writing the new constitution.
Yes, Kesali.
Right.
I was on our committee too.
And we got a copy of the draft constitution. Time to read it. This is in prison now. And the contraband copy where they hide it somewhere. Where we're going to cut wood, somebody will carry it and leave it there under some leaves. When we finish our work, we go there and we read some provision of it and then argue. Sometimes we kept it in the prison. At night we'd go to bed, we listen to it and read it. We were not supposed to listen to radio. Yes, it's not a hard place in terms of labor. Maybe if you're 30, it's no big deal. But we have moments where we shed tears together with the soldiers. In my case, Tabe and I went on the cut wood and we found ourselves behind a cassava farm. The soldier who took us in was all right, we could dig some cassava and eat it. You dig cassava and eat it raw. Good food. All right. We were eating the cassava, the soldier walked down the road. And a beautiful young lady who happened to be going to school there came along with a copybook. She was, I think, in 6th, 7th grade. And she was trying to do math. You know. We looked around, we didn't see the soldier. So I grabbed the copybook. And I said, this is how you do it. While we were doing that, the soldier was coming. And Tape saw him first. And we dropped everything. And we pretended that we just eat cassava or eating cassava. The man got close enough. And he said they sent good people here and sometimes we kill them. I pray to God that they don't kill you.
How long did you stay there?
Wait, I'm not finished. Then he said, please help her. That's my daughter. He was crying, we were crying. We had to perform such civic duty on the social. But it was still in their heart to help this country. And we did what we could. The prison is not hard. It's hard on the soldiers. They can't do anything else. They're mostly drunk. They can't go on the farm. They got these prisoners who can run away. I mean, someone like me, and someone like Holder there, they got Tape, they got Dr. Kula, you know. Henry Fumba, Maulo, you know, there are 12 of us there. In the night, when the Lagos, the best brain in all Beliala was in that room.
Dr. Africula from
yes. We were in that room. But we had fun. Again, when I think back, when I'm laughing, and I said, my mom doesn't know. So when I went back to Palipo in 1984, just passing through, just going to say hello to my mom, I did not realize how much people were rooting for me. The village in which my mom was born, we got there, they stopped me. I on my way to my father's village. Spent 2 weeks there. They kill a cow. Cow is a big deal in Bali. I stayed there 2 weeks. Before I reached my village, they kill another cow. To see that Balibo got 17 villages. People bringing these instruments, big wooden drums from faraway villages, bringing it to the site where they're going to honor me. And I'm saying to myself, I just came to see my mom. But it goes to show when you do something, you might think it's a narrow, but as long as it has a potential to help other people, it becomes everybody's concern. They didn't want me to die in Liberia. And to his credit, I think there was something about me that they told the soldiers there. Usually they'll say this man bears some money, like John Magulu, for instance. He took the Lower County Development Fund, gave it to a money doubler, 40,000. And the man never doubled the money. That's why they put him in jail for. But they couldn't find anything to put on me. Because I never went through the court system. Straight from the president's office, they sent me over there. So I had that, I guess.
How long did you stay there? Because I think in 1984, during that same period, it didn't take long, Dr. Kula was released. Kate, he was released, who was still in Banga, and I saw him having, other than, passing, going to Nima, were in that era. How long did you stay there?
I stayed in Liberia for 4 months. I spent another 3 months here in Central Prison.
Were you ever tried, going through the due process of law? Or
no. I was a private prisoner. Some people, again, that's just coming from abroad. This business about freedom, you don't know to what degree the thing rubs on you until you are confronted with a situation where people don't understand that you have some basic right, and your acute awareness of those rights lend itself to a certain intolerance of people asking questions, and you can't see the point of it, And so a thing like that, it shows sometimes, I get impatient with people.
And what period you say you serve as on this maritime period, during Taylor time?
No.
Judy Bryant time?
In the interim government, Judy Bryant.
Okay, we're not supposed to talk about that period now.
I asked you before.
But it's good because what we're looking, so during the Taylor, but you still found out when you went to maritime, despite the fact whether or not you really them had left, but you could still see that there was someone who had the opportunity to have invested in himself, that at least he did something good for Liberia, that we can get some dividend. And thank you for letting the public know, so we can know that those shares and stuff for Liberia, so irrespective who goes there, will be able to know. Because many things done, only the government know about it, the higher echelon, the Liberians never know. So thank you for revealing that. Now, as a young man, like that part in the scripture say, when you were a child, you did as a child. When you became a man, you put away childish things. Tatatia in the 70s, who used to write so much, I just heard the name, and that's why I'm happy today to see the Tatatia. T-E-H.
Exactly.
Yes. Because sometimes we used to see so much writing that we thought it was someone writing on a pseudonym.
Yeah.
Yes. You are talking about the ills. You wanted a change. 1980, the change came. You are one of the educated people who, from what they call the indigenous now that we really have. Looking back, if you had to do it and see what happened, how do you feel? Do you think that it made any difference? Did you see any real difference when things were supposed to turn around in the interest of the common people, the grassroots, from that period of 1970? Tatatia started here in almost the late 70s or maybe the mid 70s. up until 2003. And what's your feeling? What did you see? Because all we hear for economic crimes, but you are a historian. You one of those who a legend in an icon in your own right. Whether people like you, everybody like you. Everybody hated you. Can you see the difference if you had now to look back at Talbot, the vision he had, or what you think he was doing, the people what they had to do, Taylor, because those are the real leaders we had during the period, elected leaders. What would you say that you could leave it was something that you had to speak on for the last time until now? How will you classify, or what will you want history to really know after seeing it?
Right. We're humans. Some of the faculties we got thinking faculty. But the heart gets in the way of the head when you are thinking. What you wish for, you tend to gravitate towards it. Then what is practicable? What can happen? But, some things are so bad, we need to put them side by side with something to see that they're bad. When somebody is beating somebody, it's bad. You want to stop it. There's a function for government. Every country needs a government. But we need a government that is fair. What I saw, and I tried to lay out as a child. I wasn't born educated. There was a time that, and my younger brother who died, grade 10, one day asked me, and that time I think I was in the 5th grade, he said, Tati, if this Tubman died, with this president Tubman died, who would be the next president? Now we've stepped across the gap. I said, well, Tubman is a person. The position is president. Anybody can occupy. But that's the attitude that prevailed. But specifically to your question, what I saw, as soon as I said before, there's that craving from the heart of things you want to see happen right away. But the things that will cause them to happen are not yet in place. Somebody asked a similar question of me when I was when I was press counselor for the government of Liberia during the dual time. And was there, why are you looking for this man? And I said, the day you graduate from high school, if instead of giving you someone give you a trick to run, think about how many mistakes you would have made to put up with some. If there was how much would it have been?
if we want to stop all of this, what do we do? Instead of having these private enemy lists.
Private list?
Yeah.
Enemy list?
Yes. So having those, we would say, me, I'll start with Charles Taylor. I think Charles Taylor belongs right in front of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. You know what I'm talking about? We wrote the comprehensive peace agreement. I read 8 books on the South African Truth and Reconciliation in Ghana, whatever way in Ghana, went to the embassy of South Africa and got these books. There's a book called the book is translated into 7 languages. They made a movie starring Samuel Jackson. I read that book and I wrote to Judy Bryan and I said, this movie here, we need to make arrangement and play in Liberia. So that they said, the country of my skull, the difficulty of peace, and forgiveness in South Africa, in the new South Africa. The woman used to write stories that be rated like people on the report of crimes against black people.
Senior or junior?
I was vice president for the New York chapter of Liberia Student Association. The man came and we want to talk to him, interview him at Beacon Plaza Hotel near the United Nations. And we sat there. I didn't talk much. I was writing a lot of notes. And I asked questions now and then. Then they asked me, what are you studying? I said, I'm studying journalism. He said, yeah, I knew it. I knew it. The way you talk, the way you write, the question you asked. But he made a mistake. He said, I know everything about journalism because my father wanted to listen. I said, oh my God. I said, there you go. I said, my professor can't say he knows everything about it. And that became the point of contention. Of course, to teach you how to confront people in interview situations. You want to reveal more. When I twisted that thing around and made it sound like he did something, he got angry with me. So we left that. He didn't say anything. The next day, he told Hillary Gibson. He said, bring that guy back. So we went there again. And from that point on, he was trying to make friends with me. But I rejected all his overture. I just want to be strictly journalist and confronting. He's part of the establishment. I am not. I got issues I want you to hear, and so forth and so on. And the man was to be my friend. We ended up being friends. Then he sent Steve Tolbert. Well, he went on his own, but he said, when you get there, find a kid called Tati Ted. I went to the embassy, the consulate in New York. Steve Tolbert was there talking about rally time in Liberia. While Steve Tolbert was talking, the young lady by the name of George, I think about George, Peter Amos George's daughter.
Yeah, she's married to Pratt now.
Yeah, she used to be married to
George
Marcus Matthews.
No, May George.
Right. Then she said, does the government, asking Steve Tolbert now, does the government have a program with which they can help students who are, people, Liberians who want to go to school and may have problems like they can't pay their rent and, some help, help with their rent and stuff like that. Steve Tolbert got so angry and I couldn't even see it coming. He said, look, young lady, he said, we are talking about people who, when you go in the village and you play the national anthem, their first impulse is to get up and dance. They don't know the national anthem. We're talking about raising people from bats to mattresses. Home in the school, falling into the interior so they can get half the chance you got to be in New York City and still complaining about, we pay your rent. You know how many books your 1 month rent can buy? You benefit now and so forth. So you went about insult to him. He used an expression that was an obvious insult. And the fellow called Ken Akolase, who was then current president, and say, Mr. Minister, we do address our ladies like that. So I think, without due respect, you owe the young lady an apology. Steve Thomas refused to apologize, and everybody, got angry with him. He grudgingly said something that was a compromise. Sounded like an apology. We left it there. Then a month later, I captured the whole story with the title "Rally Time in New York," and it was published by the Revelation magazine, University of Liberia. And Steve Thomas saw it, and he was not flattered. Because I said, in the beginning, I said the gospel will come to St. Stephen's, blah, 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 blah. He got a satirical bent. So he went back to New York, and he said, "Did you get on the plane to come to New York?" So I said, so we got things to do here. At the time I was in Washington, he was in New York. I said, just call people and jump on the plane. Steve Thomas in town, we got all the things. Needless to say, I never met him. Came back and get a press interview and say all kinds of things about me. But that's the struggle. But the point here is, one way or another, Cesar Dennis became a friend. And the harder I tried, the more involved emotionally I got with him. As a thinking person, everything he said, I tried to shoot it down. That's the kind of relationship we had. And then the coup happened. I had come to Liberia in 1975. I was there for about maybe 6 months and went back. And now we're friends now, officially we're friends. He said, come to the foreign ministry. And such time, I went to the foreign ministry, I'm sitting there in the corner. He got one pastor man sitting over there. And the guy is looking at me all the time. I'm kind of suspicious. I think maybe he has a sexual or something. I don't like that, Then in the end, I said, look, I've been in office for a long time. He said, now watch you sign paper. I got to go somewhere. He said, okay. Tate, see that man sitting over there? He's my tailor. You told me you like this suit I'm wearing. So I want him to look at you. But since if I make this suit now and you put it on it doesn't fit, then you're going to say because I'm Americo-Liberian, I want to make countrymen look stupid, look bad. And we all started laughing. He let us see the guy measure me and made a suit for me. Now, fast forward. The coup happened. In the morning, about 2 o'clock in the morning, in Washington time, we all called each other, milling around, got together. Then, a few days later, the execution took place. And Cesar Dennis was one of them. That day I went back to my apartment. I want to go see my friend Blamo Siki. And I pushed my clothes. It looks like the night before I was looking for something. I pushed the clothes and that suit was hanging all by itself. What a suit on this side. I just left it right in the middle. And I looked at it a long time. I took it down. I took a shoebox. And I proceeded to fold the suit and put it in the box. My hand was shaking. I said, the suit didn't want to get in the box. Then I said to myself, Tate, this is not why Cesar gave you this suit. I think you got to wear it. You got to confront it. I was hurt, but I had to face it. Man bought me a suit. I kept the suit. To know that he has no grave, Torber has no grave. Here we are. Torber was a person who tried hard, the best way he knew how. Somebody tried too hard, like arresting taxi driver, overloading, all that kind of stuff. You know, but there was never a moment where he let go. He said, well, I don't care, I'm just riding into the end of my term. But ironically, it was because of the liberal attitude towards everybody else that let the door ajar. When you come to people always wanted a chance to lead as well. So he became a victim of the condition, a positive condition created to fulfill the ideals of democracy. He perished for it. All I want personally is to see a spot where I can stand against the ground where lies Torbert.
So you say what you feel to recommend that government should recognize his death, to have something like a grave, something like Totman grave here, or some identification that you could say this is President Torbert's grave.
Right. Or feeling that the site
Yes.
which they were dumped,
Yes.
we declare that a holy site stained by the blood of our brothers. Our
Yes.
brothers fought brothers.
Yes.
Do the same thing for wherever they drop dead. They find a remain and bring it, tell the
Yes.
ghost story, tell the Torbert story.
Yes.
The way they did in Gettysburg,
Yes.
USA, with the Lincoln address.
Yes.
Right. The ground was stained by the blood. American kill American. We can do the same thing. But to ignore it this long is a crime in itself, as I feel.
And you feel with your voice and with the TRC sitting here that represent the end of the war, the comprehensive peace accord, say this TRC must come to speak about the truth, identify the truth, where victims and perpetrators can come together and give a clear picture of what happened in this war. That you, Tatate, that's what I'm saying, who are one of those who saw the vision, who interacted with everybody. So this is your recommendation to the TRC for us to recommend, right?
Right. And I don't want, you can overdo something. Even the business of the President Tubman. I think initially they had a internal flame.
Internal flame.
The implement since that was with neglect and it fell out. I just want something for President Torber. I think the man has earned the right to have his own grave. Or we can say, as a testimony to what can happen, and we don't control our emotions. They're too far. The amount of death that took place during the war, I never thought Liberians hated each other that much.
Oh, my brother.
We got to mark that spot so that the president can have a final resting place. I'd say do it for Torber, do it for Doe. Maybe you're coming from across my own Grebo background. The Grebo, you don't lose a dead body. No. They will comb the forest. They will find a person and give him his own grave. There's nothing worse than bring war onto a tribe, and I think to a nation, than these scattered bodies strewn in the countryside, especially those that we can find.
Yeah.
And that's my recommendation. Don't make it like a mausoleum or something big, but it should be a national park with a theme where all the stories are told. You go to this way, go this way. The Samuel Doe story. You come here and see the Torber story. The intervening years, where Liberia stumbled, where we did wrong, what we did good, and so forth. And that history, we got to face it.
See, I see it here today, but our team confronting the difficult past for a better future. That is the theme of the TRC, the entire hearing, the historical hearing, confronting our better past for a better future. So in order for us to have a better future, coming from the mouth of someone who wrote and someone whose voice was heard all through the land, you all who before during the war, you already know the name Tatate, and he talking about the people and the system that he wrote against. Thank you very much. I appreciate it, and I have nothing to say. Even you, may history judge you fairly and gave you your rightful place. The TRC, our work not finished. We're supposed to have a national conference, reconciliation conference, where not just the preachers, everybody, representative, everybody will come. And I let you know this what you didn't know, or you on radio. We thank you, and that recommendation that you gave is a good recommendation, because this is what we're supposed to do for all. Because irrespective of what it is, if God didn't want his people to be leaders, they would never been. And that their name also here, you know, I don't know what a door name on this thing here. That these other people too, that their names he put in a historic in his centennial pamphlet. You see, we see here the Pastor Chief John, all those here, when people think that this thing here is just for the Americans. Some of them haven't had the opportunity to come in the centennial pavilion. Right where I'm looking, I see here, they say, long live our, long Peter and George and long Ben. My friend, you in the way there. Bob Bray, Fremont. Their names here, just as the names of the other president, coming from someone like you who I've heard of, read of. I would say thank you very much. And I'm happy that you were able to come, and no one else, even though your voice is faint, but nobody else now I can see. First I was wondering why the man can't let somebody else read a paper here. Because your voice, we can't hear it. But you're very audible on the radio. It's coming from your own voice, and not only your own voice, but it's not just coming from your head, but now it's coming from the heart. And straight from the heart, we can say thank you very much for participating in this historic period. Truth session, telling the truth. Thank you. And we look forward for you to be an active participant in that reconciliation conference. So when you go back, go look for all the paper you used to write if you can find it. If you can't find it, just jot down some of those things. And I hope the executive secretary will have you, because you know as much, you know more, and you too can contribute. And thank you for confessing, telling the truth, how it was then, how it was the other day, and how you feel about it now. We are all one Liberia, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Commissioner Pearl Brown, who's speaking.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you very much for your contribution. And maybe I just have a few questions for you. And I hope you will indulge me as we go through. My name is John Stewart. I was not here when you started, and so I missed out on the introduction. During your presentation, you mentioned, and you talked about, my colleagues also came back and asked the same question about, can you hear me well?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, okay.
Thank you very much.
So, you talk about the purchase of shares in the Inmarsat satellite outfit by the Bureau of Maritime. I suppose those shares were purchased by the Maritime Bureau on behalf of the governor of Liberia. Am I right?
Yes.
Now, I would like to know, to the best of your knowledge, how much dividends, annual dividends, did those shares contribute? And since you were an official at the Maritime Bureau, how were these dividends utilized? Were they remitted to the coffers of the government, or were they remitted to private interests?
Yeah, you know, when early on, when it appeared that I was giving so much praise to Mr. Yuri for this endeavor, one thing I did not want to get credit for is how the money was used.
How was it used? We have an interest in knowing how it was used.
Well, then you can use me as a source to say that Mr. Yuri was the one during his tenure that the shares were bought. But what I know and I'm prepared to document is that the share yield roughly $1.8 million every 3 months.
So if we multiply that by 12, that's something like about 21 million, a little over 21.5 million, or 21.6 million.
No, you will multiply by.
Oh, every 3 months by 4.
Exactly.
So that's about 7.2 million.
Something to that effect, but it fluctuates. You know, when the company does well, the dividend is high. You know, but it stays within that 1.8, 2.5, you know, 2.05, something like that. The checks I've seen so far, they are around the 2 million mark. That's, you know, but it's not in the name of Mr. Yuri. It's in the name of the Bureau of Maritime Affairs.
I'm asking, how were those funds utilized? Were they paid to government coffers, or were they paid to private individuals? And if they were paid to government coffers, to what purposes were they applied?
Well, you got to get another witness to take that step, but I'm prepared to show you a typical check. Here, you look at it, they are the person to whom it paid is...
Who's the payee?
The payee?
Yes.
That's the person who is paid?
No, the person who is being paid.
The person being paid will be the Bureau of Maritime Affairs. That's what it says on here.
All right. And were those funds, we know that the Maritime Bureau is a subset of the Ministry of Finance. I guess there were some attempts to make it an independent entity. free of any links to the Ministry of Finance. I don't recall whether that effort succeeded. But what we are interested in is how were those funds utilized? During your time, was there any audit report, for instance, that details the expenditure of those funds? And who were the signatories to the account? Was it the head of the Maritime Bureau? Was it the Minister of Finance? Was it the governor of the Central Bank? Who were the authorized signatures to the account?
Again, I don't want to exceed my limit.
Please don't.
Now, the way I understand it from a check, if a check is written to the Bureau of Maritime Affairs, it's just as good as written to the government of Liberia. If the check is written to, I guess LPMC is a government-owned corporation. Yeah, LPRC. I guess you can say the same thing for LPMC. These are public corporation, government-owned public corporations. They got oversight, who oversees what and what they look for in terms of the money generated is a step beyond where I am. All I'm ready to prove is that somebody sat down and said, gee, I think this company will do well in the future. And the initial capital that was invested in that has since been realized many times over. And that's credit worthy, and that's where my story ends as far as that goes. If you want to know what they did with the money, you got to go ask them. I say the same thing for Liska. The reason I gave the person who was commissioner during the Charles Taylor regime, the St. Ben Uri, is that the way he followed the agent and the means that were created to make sure that the agent did not cheat, to have two coding system where you cannot see the account to know how much money in it or do anything with the money in the computerized account until two passwords have been put in, one from the government side, one from the Liska side, and you all see it. When that screen closes, nobody opens it without the other person. These were some of the protective measures that were put in. What was the motivation for putting that in? It's anybody's guess. Taylor needed the cash. He didn't want anybody screwing around with it. I don't know. But whether Taylor time or this time or any time, it's a good system to have with your partner when money is involved.
So you believe that there was a sufficient amount of transparency involved in such arrangements, such that it did not lend itself easily to unscrupulous purposes?
Exactly. And that's where my credit ends. Once they share and the whole business are looking at it, is to know how much money is there. So when time to come, your share, your percentage, you got your real percentage, but if you let somebody else keep the money, as has happened during this interim period when they move everything, I show you here, I'll pass this around. You see two accounts that I maintain, one for shipping, the other one for corporate. The one for corporate, for the one for shipping, they got Tuba and Reeves as people who can enter that account and see, along with the agent, or go in there independently and see. I don't know how to set it up. But when it comes to the corporate, only Liska sees the money in there, and where I put a star is where the government watchdog person was supposed to have access to that account too, to know what is there.
Now, during your term in the hierarchy of the Maritime Bureau, comparing that to your predecessors, I would like to know what and I'll be asking basically for rough figures or rough estimates. But what would you estimate the annual income earned through the Maritime Bureau during your term, during your predecessor's time? Was there an upward movement from your predecessors during your time, or was there a fall in maritime revenues during your time? And also, what did the total operational expenses amount to as compared to revenue intake?
Okay, that's a very good question. My experience is that the time I was there, we were adding more ships, and as we got more tonnage, we could boast of high tonnage. We were still the second largest ship registry company in the world. Our total tonnage goes up. But maybe you were not here when I said, but the net earnings from both registration and corporate is down. It's on the way down. The trend is downward. Now, it got to a point that I was worried, because the more you add ship, the more the revenue sink. It doesn't make sense logically, but at some point you begin to wonder, is it the adding of the ship that's causing the revenue to go down? If so, can we afford to add the next ship? But if you look at, and there's a lot of reading, at the Mo Stevens audit, the auditor has similar suspicion. You know, Liscott will advertise and all they talk about is tonnage. But if the tonnage does not translate to money, it's useless. You know, so during my tenure, this line was down. Tonnage-wide, we're going up. We're still number 2. You know.
And you couldn't find an answer to that paradoxical situation?
I didn't get you.
And during that time, were you able to unravel the paradox?
I read about it. I don't know if you noticed, I brought a lot of files, all my communications. If I have suspicion, I put it right there. I don't want to call somebody on the phone and then I hear a different version of what was discussed. So, email and writing.
So, during the time of ITC, comparatively, revenues, if you were plugged in on a graph, you see that the graph will show a decline in revenue intake,
right,
with a corresponding rise in tonnage during Liscot's administrative oversight, as opposed to ITC's oversight. How would such a graph show? During ITC, was there a rise in income corresponding to a rise in registered tonnage, for example?
Yeah, I get you. During ITC time, I just go for the dollar amount. You know, Liscott try to impress me with tonnage, but tonnage does not translate to money. So I don't buy tonnage. I would rather have someone give me money. So in the case of ITC, we got more money because we got bad attitude, and some of it was justified. And you know, we're not nearly as attentive. You know, we dance to the tune of this other agent. To give you an example, when I became Senior Deputy Commissioner, Bureau of Maritime Affairs, I replaced a man named John Molo. The assumption, which was reasonable, was that I was going to do everything that John Molo did for the government of Liberia. I'm in a job. 6 months later, I see shipping documents, more tonnage, you know, and I don't see any email briefing me about corporate. So I write my first email, I think was June 6, 2004. And I said, you brief me about ship. What about corporate? I wanted to find out that I was not commissioned as a registrar of corporation. When I found out that deficiency, I called the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and Thomas White Nibbler told me, you're supposed to do everything that John Malu did. I said, I'm not. I can't get a handle on data on the shipping, on the corporate registry. Back and forth, Litzka said, you are not registrar of corporation. You are only senior deputy commissioner for maritime. That's what we do with shipping.
Were there any reverberations from the high echelon of government?
Now, so I got to come to Monrovia now. Tomo Yaya Nima had to write another letter. I got a copy of it. He appointed me as deputy registrar of corporation. I get back to the States. Then the agent asked me to submit a specimen of my signature so they can attach it electronically. Every corporate document they have prepared. Instead of me looking at the document, stamping and saying, okay, this is good. I said, no, it doesn't work like that. I said, before you say your machine could not index, stuff on corporate, could not index anything. Now suddenly you've developed a new sophistication where you can have my signature transmitted electronically and attached to a document. But again, if your government is not backing you, you're spinning your wheel for nothing. And that's what I found out.
So I understand you to say that you had very deep-seated suspicions about the manner in which Litzka was handling our registry accounts that bordered on intransparency, so to speak.
Right.
Now, at the time of your takeover, what was the net value of the Maritime's non-fixed assets, and how much money did the Maritime have in its accounts at the time you assumed office?
Okay, the Maritime as a function of the government does not have its own money per se, except for payroll purposes. Any maritime money of maritime goes into our budget, and part of the budgetary, that's why they contribute money into the budget. So we have a maritime. The only way we gauge whether we're doing well or not is whether the agent is paying out more or less. And in my case, it was less and getting less. Now, they've already talked about creative accounting, or the British people who wrote the thing called it clever accounting, that created windfall for the agent and shortfall for the government of Liberia. Now, that is suspicious, Now, I am there. The building in which Litzka offices are located, we paid $800,000 just shy.
And that's something that was happening up to the time you left.
Yes, we are paying rent. It's $800,000 a year for the space, 2 floors that we rent, that Litzka rents. The furniture in there, they get it from the furnishing company. The phone, another company brings in the phones. The photocopying machines are rented to us. Now, my suspicion is that I have no way of knowing whether Litzka owns all these companies or set them up and bill us for this. Now, here's the problem. Liberia is not a business entity in the United States. It's a government. But Liberia spends a lot of money. Now, according to the audit now, what Litzka did, at least once, was these heavy purchases, they want to get tax credit. If you buy a lot in America, you get tax credit. Spend a lot.
But in reality, it was Liberia buying and not Litzka buying, but yet they were requesting tax exemption.
Exactly, you got it. So they said, these are auditors, they don't use, direct, they use euphemism, they say it's irregular. Now you go to jail for that stuff in America. They don't play with that tax business. But that's some of the things they found out. What I'm saying is that there are other things where they can divert money and say, we got to do this, we got to do that. For instance, they said, when I asked for an index list, they said the machine that they had couldn't do it, but they were in the process of converting the shipping registry and moving to a PC platform. I mean, most computers run a PC, of course, they got mainframe that faster. But he said it was going to cost $7 million for the system that they were putting together. So I said, but who told you to build this system? The dude was a proposer. It's in all the letters I got. Now, we're talking about MSI. There's another satellite issue here with LISCA. When the ship is on the sea, they used to have radios like SSB. The ship reports its position. That's why they had the Omega Tower here. The Omega Tower, the ship will bounce signals off of it to determine their own position. Now, satellites do that, so it's not necessary. Now, all the ship owners want to lease a channel for monitoring their ships. So we had a telecommunication function inside the Bureau of Maritime where we give ship owner
frequencies.
Yeah, we assign them channels on the satellite. When we call that ship, they can talk back and forth. Let's get to that function out and made a standalone company. And the company is owned by Uric Cohen, the man who runs. They said in this report, not me, I would have, of course, questioned it.
Now,
but they said they should take it back. They got no business using that as a private company before this same guy would run out.
Was that surreptitiously done, or it was done to the knowledge of the concerned Liberian authorities?
Well, if you see the letter I wrote to them, then you will know the answer to the question. I asked them, who authorized you to take this function and make it into a separate company that you own? But you know, I tell you what, this brings us back to the Commissioner Uric. Uric tried that before, but Uric wanted to, when they saw that this agent they had was trying to dupe them all the time, he told me personally, he said, I wanted to break it apart and take some part away, give it to the Liberians. So they created a company called Moncom.
Moncom?
Yeah,
Moncom. And who are the shareholders in Moncom? Who are the shareholders in Moncom?
No. Moncom is not a publicly traded company. It's a little thing that is started so they say Liberians must be the one to assign frequencies on this. Whatever they buy the satellite channel or in bulk and then sell them one channel at a time to ship owners, people who fly Liberian flags.
And who are those involved in such arrangements? I mean, selling the channels and whom were the revenues being accrued to?
No way. The story here is this. I think what Uric was trying to do is to make LISCA have less and less since they were not being open to us. So that if Liberians were running that thing, or when the interim government came in, LISCA Cohen when it took over that communication company, it was being run by a man who was a former commissioner. His name is Cooper.
Is it Mr. Randolph Cooper?
No,
or Mr. Seward Cooper?
I think it's Gerald.
Or Gerald Cooper?
No.
Gerald Patmore, you mean?
No, wait. I think it was a Weeks. It was a week. Weeks in London. But how I got the Cooper name in is this. While I was in the office there, Cooper used to come. And they changed the name to C Digital.
Is it Mr. Ethelbert Cooper?
know is Gerald Cooper.
Gerald Cooper.
So Cooper comes in the office, and they got a small office for him where he works with the agent. We see digital consulting. I wrote about it. I wrote an article on that. You know what, this guy, first time I ever met Mr. Cohen, before I even assumed the job, we're talking, and he's talking about the good things he'd done and so forth and so on. And I said, do you have a Mr. Cooper working for you? He said, yeah. Why you ask? I said, no, you just, I'm just curious. And he said, what do you know about Cooper? I said, not more than what is available publicly. I don't have any proprietary information on the man. I said, what I heard is that Cooper was kicked out of London, persona non grata or whatever, because he bought military equipment for child soldiers during the war out of London. Then Mr. Cohen explained to me that actually what he did was he wanted a commission, so he bought an SUV, but it was the Herman variety, the Herman, that big Humvee.
Yes.
That Hummer is only conceptually is a military equipment.
Yeah.
Now, because people wanted bigger car, GM started making them for private use. But technically, if you wanted to get Taylor into trouble or Gerald Cooper into trouble, you could say he bought military equipment once he shipped a Hummer to Charles Taylor. And that's what he did. So I don't know. I can't say if Mr. Cooper was buying military equipment. He could have bought rocket launchers rather than buying that stuff. But people drive the thing around monrovia, I can see. But that was their reason for kicking him out of the country. But the point here is that Gerald Cooper was a consultant with C Digital, the company they tore away from Bureau Maritime that Mr. Cohen owns. He's the same one that owns Cellcom.
And up to the time you left the Maritime, C Digital was still owned and run by Mr. Cohen.
Yeah, owned by Cohen.
And during, were there any attempts by the transitional government to retrieve those assets that have been surreptitiously taken away and converted to C Digital?
Well,
to the best of your...
I don't know for sure, but I'm prepared to say if they were, the time I raised the issue, they would have sent it my motion instead of cutting my pay.
All right, now, can you tell us a little bit about the Reston office in Virginia, the Maritime Reston office? What is its significance? Is it a handler of maritime revenues, or what?
Well, it's actually in Vienna, Virginia. The movie out of Reston when Cohen took over. Now, if you want to undertake an operation like this, you need big office space. I can understand that. One of the reasons they give for having this thing, and this thing could be here in Monrovia, it could be done because the corporations are Liberian corporations, offshore company registered in Liberia. So it's supposed to be physically located, and that's one reason. As soon as the corporation is registered, they collect and they form a big batch and they ship it to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, which is the registrar corporation. Now, what I was saying earlier was that when I didn't know, they had to give me papers. They had John Mullen go back to the office after he left. The same way Gerald Cooper went there. John Mullen's small office where he went to sign on behalf of the governor of Liberia when he was no longer on the government payroll. I was.
Now, to the best of your knowledge, is there any way, was there any margin of possibility that they then, you said to move out of Reston, I don't know to where, but were there any possibilities that such that that office could have been involved in facilitating money transfers, whether legal or illegal?
No, I'm not prepared to speculate in that regard. Now, the thing is this, it's a massive operation. And all I'm prepared to say is that their reason for keeping our operation in the U.S. instead of here in Monrovia, where the corporations are actually registered, is for lack of human capital. You can't find enough trained Liberians to perform the clerical duties that are required for accuracy, you know, in the record, computer literacy and stuff like that, let alone the mid-management or upper management skills that are needed to make sure that these things work. Now, we don't have it on the Liberian side, they have it on the LISCA side. They got buried.
Does that correlate to the absence of human capital, like human capital, whether here or in the diaspora or anywhere else, that could be recruited to run the system as expatriates are now doing?
Yeah, that's the reason they give. And they also give a reason for infrastructure. We don't have the telecommunication means for the mass transfer of data that they would need, because they would have to communicate with the offices abroad where most of the corporate clients are located. But internet solved that problem, but it still have the excuse of saying that we are not fit with a constant flow of electricity. Backing up data will be a problem, because when the power goes and you lose data and stuff like that, it's better to have it in the United States. I wouldn't spend more time arguing about that part, but having had it in America as we do, what do we do? We're still failing on that front.
But would you agree that such can be considered peripheral as compared to ownership and a real ownership, that is? Now, if the absence or lack of human capital to run such an operations efficiently can be used as a reason for maintaining it there, does that undermine any validity of Liberian ownership of that entity, even though it may be subcontracted to others to run?
Yeah, I get you. As I am angry with anybody who runs a program and shortchanges us, I have not seen any indication that we are ready to undertake the massive effort of running that thing by ourselves. Now, I'll give you a typical example. I don't see the personnel. Now, you will have someone like Yuri as the head, and you go fishing for other people who will be as diligent as he in making sure that they don't steal from us. That's a tall order right now. Now, the other thing is, there's an office on the corner of Ashman and Randall. It's called LISCA. Actually, the office there, the company there is called LISCA Trust. Now, if you have a corporation, you have to have a registered agent. All right. LISCA is a company that does business registering corporation. So you have to have a registered agent and you pay the agent. Agent gets some share. Now this is something that you and I could have done. We'll say we have a company here in Monrovia to register a corporation. We get it $300 a month for 28,686 corporate clients. $8.6 million comes to us. LISCA doesn't want us to have it. ITC didn't want us to have it. So they create LISCA Trust, and they have a man named Joseph Keller, who is the chairman or president. And all they do is collect the money for registering company in Monrovia, because they cannot be located any place else. You can't register.
And where does this money go?
Well, that's why I'm here. I kind of have a question myself. Who did they give the money? These are the letters I've been writing to them. Who takes the money?
Would you be disposed to sharing those letters with us?
Oh yeah. That all the files.
Copies of them. The other thing is, there have been reports from the UN panel that the Maritime Bureau, Maritime Agency was more or less a cash extraction entity, and that was remitting profit or revenue in private purposes. Did you, during your term at the Maritime Bureau, did any of such appear obvious to you?
That we're not making money?
No, that the agency was nothing more than a cash extraction agency from which funds could be derived and applied to, say, the purchase of arms?
Okay, now listen. We are in partnership with LISCA to collect money, whether it be from ship or from corporate registries. When we get the money, there's a formula for determining how much money Liberia gets and how much the agent gets. All right? The formula for the tonnage, which is the basis for determining how much is earned for shipping, is government gets. I have a chart that I drew up. Government gets a percent, it's set. Agent gets a percent. Now, but before the money is turned over, this guy got to take care of all the expenses. So we had net that we share. Now I told you earlier, this guy occupies a space, we pay almost $1 million, $800,000 a year. And then we lease furniture, we lease off equipment, telephones, all of this. We don't know, I could not determine at the time what company was leasing this thing to us, or who owned the company that was leasing the thing to us. It could very well have been another company that you were going set up, and so the rent goes to him, the rent for the equipment, for the furniture goes to him. These are two complicated things you can't talk to Liberians about. You know, setting up corporation to be a registered agent for your own country sound like rocket science to us. So they got to come here and put it together and put one of us on top of it. And that person probably get, $150,000 a year and satisfied. So 8.6 million goes to going, which if Maritime didn't get it, you and I could have gotten it as registered agent for all these corporations.
Were there any audits done during your time?
Yes.
And I suppose, well, let me ask whether the audits were done at your inception in office, or the audit was done of your period of management, or the audit was done of the previous management as a way of determining where the bureau stood at the time you assumed office?
Well, audits don't target incumbents who comes in. The whole system is audited, and usually this audit is supposed to be done on the contracting agent. So they don't put it basically from this time to that time. They audit the whole system. And the most leading audit, which I've abstracted here, was started in 2005. All right? And all the discrepancy, they point out how the agent getting weak for, why they not sharing the 8.6 million from the registered agent fees, why he took Moncom or took the telecommunication function and owns it as a private person, a private U.S. citizen. All of these things, they raise questions about them. But instead of taking my word for it, you got to read the audit report itself. It's out. But it's 121 pages. That's too damn long for Liberia. Now, they have an executive summary which is 48 pages. I went to the trouble of combing the whole thing and taking out the salient point as a Liberian. things that I thought my government wouldn't be interested. It came to 20 pages. That's still a heck of a lot of reading. You know, you can't have anybody reading. I give this to a newspaper. They don't want to read it. It's too damn long.
Did the findings of those reports suggest in any way that there may have been some impropriety involved in such transactions and improper conduct on the part of LISCA?
Yes, okay. If you're an auditor, you don't indict people. You don't use, strong word like corruption or this. They use word like, this is irregular.
Oh, were there irregularities? That's what I was like. Were there irregularities?
They point out enough. And this, you know what? Let me tell you something. What the government of Liberia did? After the audit came out, and on balance, it was more of an indictment of LISCA for its practices. What do? LISCA, George Aku works for LISCA. All right?
And he used to work for the Maritime Bureau before, right?
Yeah, I get there. George Aku works for LISCA. George Aku works for the government of Liberia. He's on my team. All right, then you go and get somebody from the mayor's office to join with you to report the report.
And do you have a copy of such rebuttal letter?
No, it was reported in the newspaper. And I confronted one of the guys who took part. I said, well, you're on my team. How come you guys write a report today? What a report. The people are trying to tell us that people are stealing our money. I said, no matter what, you are responsible. Although he said, well, he didn't see anything wrong with it. I said, well, if you see nothing wrong with it, why didn't you invite me? I work for the government too. We can go there and join the reporter party. He said, well, the reason I didn't call you, you are not experienced. We needed old maritime bosses and other, because actually there are some errors in the audit. I said, the error, are they at our detriment or the detriment of LISCA? And we're going to join with them to impeach our own report, our own audit. This is so confused. Granted, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not an economist or accountant, but after you read something 5 times, I think something sticks with you. And then you see the general direction where the thing is going. But to ask questions, why you took this, you don't have to be, an accountant, you have to be economist. You only have to be clothed with the authority to look after your own government's interest. And that's where the questions arise.
Let me thank you very much for elucidating all of this. And I really wish time would have been kinder enough to us to explore more in depth, but owing to time constraints, let me thank you very much, and let me stop at this point with the hope that you'll be available down the road, that where we can contact you to provide further light on these arrangements. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and I'd like just in closing to let you know the way to get focus to your questions in further inquiry is to acquaint yourself with the audit report, which is already out. You can start with my synopsis of it. The page references are there. After you have seen what I saw as areas of concern, you can read the whole thing and see the whole picture. And then we can talk again. By that time, your question will be sharper and to the point, and you will understand how LISCA operates and what I'm looking for as a watchdog for the government of Liberia, and why I am disappointed that I did not have a backup team when they were cutting my legs from under me while I thought I was fighting for our government.
Thank you. Thank you. I will try to, if the report is available, I will certainly love to have a look at it. And I hope you understand my inadequacies owing to my non-perusal of that report. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Testing. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Witness, for your testimonies and your resource information. As you rightly said, there's a lot of good information there that we need to digest, and I'll make sure that the committee, after we receive your documents, we distribute it to the various members of the commission and have a chance to digest that material. We'll prepare another set of questions more specific based on your information and ask you to reappear to us, but maybe in private at that time, so that we can go through any additional information we need. But for this day, we again express our gratitude to you for your presentation, and we hope that you can please have all of the information that you have for us. Please turn over to our hearing officer, who will then make it available for us later. And we actually, at this point now, if you have any final words that you would like to share with us before leaving.
Well, thank you very much. To me, it's an opportunity I never thought would come. An opportunity to talk about things that I felt and I thought. And I want to thank you for giving me this opportunity. I think we're midway through this testimony when I realized we were on radio. I did not know I had that wide an audience. But I was not surprised or disappointed, because someone once said, you know, when you tell the truth, you're going to get in a lot of trouble. And I can attest to that. But if that's not enough trouble, you can always double it by telling a lie. And certain things I don't know, but I'm naturally curious. I have a gift of reporting and writing, saying exactly what's on my mind, interpreting things that people tell me. And that's what I brought, and that's what the president said. My reporting on the maritime gave a new insight into how it works. We can push that frontier a little further with everyone getting involved and studying it. If I have a blind spot, you can compensate for that. And we all get to the truth. That's all I ever asked for. I still want to serve my country. I don't want to be a hammer bearer. I don't want to ride in a hammock. I just want to be on my own 2 feet and stand up squarely to anybody, you know, as far as the rights of man, citizens in this country. I will not flinch from the truth, harsh truth I've told. You know, there's a lot of truth out there, but the question is, where are we going as a nation? We have fought a war, and somebody may start another war. You know, much as we don't want to see it happen, somebody will join in that war. We don't want it. We know the price of war. Needless waste. And because of the war, there's a gap now. People did not go to school. You talk about human capital. We don't have it. And we have gone back. We don't have it. So it will take another generation before we are equipped, and assuming that we do the right thing now. And I think it's the moment now. Reconciliation means just that. It's my brother here. I came here, I said things about him, the way I saw it. Ironically, he's the only countryman I know for sure on this thing here. I would have loved to see some of the other tribes represented on this DRC, to give us a better way of looking. We all got different way. I once told somebody that the hammer that I keep talking about is a question of perspective. Everybody has a perspective. Perspective is not wrong. It's not right, but it points in a way the person sees things. And if you see the person, if you look from that person's perspective, you get some understanding of what drives him. I take the hammer. You bring the hammer and put it down here. If I see the hammer, I see burden. Someone who comes from the family of a hammer rider, he sees a lift. He's not wrong. I'm not wrong. That's the way we see things. But if we don't come together, put it to perspective, know what concerns me and what concerns him, we'll never get appreciation for where we need to go. Now, I'm sick and tired of being one person being telling some hard truth. It's about time we all got together and work towards the common goal of this nation and making it friendly for all. Thank you very much.
So at this juncture, we will take a short 30-minute recess. We have one more presentation from Centel Civil Society Organization. So we'll meet after this short break, 30 minutes, at 4:45, and have that final presentation for the day.